Assalamu alaikum. Am I audible and visible?
Walaikum salam.
Welcome to the ICAPS webinar on finance and audit automation with data analytics and artificial intelligence. I'm your host for the webinar. My name is Zaid Kalia. I'm CFO of Tata Pakistan, fellow member of the Institute, and the president of C2's Masters Club. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إذا جاء الله والفتح ورأيت الناس يدخلون في دين الله أفواجا فسبح بحمد ربك واستغفره إنه كان توابا صدق الله العظيم. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise from your seat for the national anthem. Artificial intelligence is revolutionizing the way we conduct our daily lives and work. So virtual assistants that can help us organize our schedules and answer our questions to self-driving cars is now possible. AI is changing our lives. In addition, robotics process automation has the potential to interact with us, and they can solve our complex problems. Today, we have subject matter experts across the globe joining us today to share their insight in the subject matter of finance and audit, how this technology can help us and how we can augment and how we can get benefit of this technology and provide solution to our repetitive tasks and how we can do work effectively. And for all this, I'm glad that the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Pakistan has organized this webinar. So without further ado, I will be inviting our first speaker. She is a superwoman. She is our council member, Ms. Khurshid Kotwal. She is fellow member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Pakistan and currently chairs the Digital Accounting and Assurance Board. She is founder and CEO of management consultancy, Asman International, and has worked in leading position in Unilever for 18 years. Please put your hands together for Ms. Khurshid Kotwal.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone. A very warm welcome to all of you. I am truly overwhelmed by the interest for today's event. We have people joining in from USA, Canada, UK, Italy, Australia, Kazakhstan, Bahrain, Oman, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, UAE, and of course, Pakistan. The Digital Accounting and Assurance Board has meticulously created this webinar on finance and audit automation with data analytics and artificial intelligence. According to Accenture, up to 80% of finance processes can be automated. Now that I feel is a staggering number because this means that it will free up at least 65 to 70% of finance professionals' time. For some, this can be an area of concern, and for others, an opportunity to learn new skill sets. There is now an abundance of low-code or no-code IT solutions available. Hence, the IT function no longer has to be involved to build in the automation processes. 39% of finance professionals are themselves building their department's automation. Automating the finance function can be enticing, but the benefits can be elusive. And today we'll have a discussion on that. CFO and finance professionals will need to have a clear understanding of what kind of activities can be automated. Knowing what to automate can lead us to a new era of productivity and performance. Do you think AI is a shiny toy syndrome? It is being said that AI will reach human levels by 2029. So imagine a day in 2035 when AI would take over most of the work of humans. Robotic process automation and artificial intelligence are poised to reshape the finance function. Data analytics powered with AI can provide a faster and more accurate way of analyzing data. Adopting these technologies can help businesses to make more informed decisions and identify areas of risk. Today, we have gathered tech and finance gurus from around the world who excel in these areas, and I'm excited to hear their insights on finance automation. Also, we will be seeing some demos. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Ms. Khurshid Kotwal, for being such an inspirational performer. Now, I would like to invite the President of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Pakistan, Mr. Ali Latif. Mr. Ali Latif is a fellow member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Pakistan and is council member of ICAP since 2017. He has also served as a Vice President of ICAP, President of Pakistan Institute of Public Finance Accountants, and recently appointed as the non-executive director on the board of State Bank of Pakistan. He has over 20 years of experience in the accounting and audit profession. He currently serves as a partner in Messrs. Munib Ziauddin and Co. Chartered Accountants. Please put your hands together for the President of the ICAP, Mr. Ali Latif.
Thank you, Zaid. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. My dear ICAP members, council members, our distinguished guests, and especially joining Asif Zaman, I think, who has just gotten elected on the ICAW Middle East board as well. It is no doubt a great pleasure that I'm here to welcome you to the webinar on the finance and audit automation with data analytics and artificial intelligence, which is organized by DAB of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Pakistan and headed by our very own and most energetic councilwoman, Ms. Khurshid Kotwal. In today's rapid changing world, no doubt, technology has somehow revolutionized the way we operate the business along with the accountancy profession, and it has created many different new challenges, and there could be some hidden opportunities in it as well. Because of that, it has now become imperative that the finance professionals try to keep up with those ever-changing landscape, along with trying to go ahead with these technologies and trying to find out the real insights behind it. And they need to be alerted of the practical demonstrations and the use of various cutting-edge technologies, including the robotic automation process that Ms. Khurshid Kotwal was talking about. Just as she has explained that the AI will be becoming more increasingly sophisticated and capable of handling complex tasks. However, I think there is a bit debate here whether the finance functions would be so much automated, or rather I think it's the accounting functions that will be first automated to that level rather than the finance functions to go into the robotic automation process. And the main idea behind this webinar, and it will be no doubt a continuous series of these seminars, is to ensure that all our professionals, both on the accounting side as well as the auditing side, are informed the impact this digital transformation will make on their profession. And for this, I'm very grateful for Ms. Khurshid Kotwal, because soon she will be launching a technology assessment training program. I think it will be held just after the Eid holidays. And this will help you to stay ahead of this game and to ensure that our digital auditors are ready for the challenges of the next decade. However, one thing I would like all my members to acknowledge is that don't be fearful of this technological change. You don't need to fear this, but we need to grasp that and enhance our own skill set according to it. So this is something I think I'd like to convey to all my members, that don't try to go and think of this as an unknown fear. We should go ahead and ensure that we have this bull by the horns, and the Institute will help you in developing your career forward by helping you with various digital transformation seminars. They'll help you with various enhancing your technical skills, enhancing your other skills that are required. And for this, I think you should all be getting ready, so that if this big change of technology comes, we are one of the most prepared professionals. And my heartfelt thanks to all the speakers, panelists, and participants who have joined us today. And I hope that this seminar provides that valuable insight and best practices that all our participants are looking forward for. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ali Latif, for sharing the insight with the August gathering. Next talk is on the topic, how digitalization and automation is impacting the finance profession, by our guest of honor, Mr. Al-Noor Bhimani. Mr. Al-Noor is a professor of management accounting at the London School of Economics and honorary dean at LUMS, with ongoing research on the impact of technology on finance, work, and education. He's a prolific author with over 20 books and hundreds of scholarly journals on digitalization and cyber issues. He is also an advisory board member of universities in Africa, America, Europe, and Asia, and holds an MBA from Bonn University and PhD from LSE. Please, with a big round of virtual applause, welcome Mr. Al-Noor.
Thank you very much for this kind introduction, and thank you also for inviting me. It really is a great pleasure to be speaking at ICAB. It's also an honor I've looked at the list of other speakers, and it's an honor to be joining them as well. I have been looking at the relationship between technology and accounting for about 30 years. And my sense is that digitalization is the biggest transformation in the history of business. And if we think of accounting, in a sense, as a language of business, then it's obviously going to be the biggest transformation that is confronting the accounting profession. So this is the focus of my talk. I'd like to basically highlight some of the changes that are coming our way as accountants, as finance professionals. And this is based on a number of conversations with accountants, as well as research, as well as surveys, as well as qualitative information that is stemming from industry, from the Accountancy Institute, and from elsewhere. So I'll share my screen with some PowerPoints. So what I would like to do then is really focus on digitalization and automation and its impact on the finance function. I wrote a book recently, which was in the making for about 3 years, talking to accountants and organizations that service the accounting profession, as well as managers and executives who use accounting professionals' services. I found one realization that came out of my interviews and my discussions with individuals in accountancy is that there is a small number of accountants who fully grasp and understand the impact of digitalization and making preparations for it. But then there's a much wider number of accountants who I think need to understand and want to know what exactly is going to be the impact of this. And my sense is that there is not enough preparation in that direction. So I want to highlight some of the things that perhaps we should be thinking about. There are 3 things that have come out loud and clear from my research. The first one is that as accountants, we've been used to looking at structured information. So in other words, financial activities take place, we capture that data, we introduce it into our accounting systems to produce financial statements, and then different parties, decision makers and others, basically rely on that information to make decisions and so on. I think it's very clear now that with digitalization, there's a much bigger set of data that accountants have not been used to unraveling for decision-making purposes. And this basically is a gem that lays hidden to those who don't understand the impact of digitalization. And I want to sort of focus on that a little bit. My sense is that unstructured data has huge potential for accountants to tap into. It probably represents in very many organizations 80 or 90% of the information. Unfortunately, accountants focus on just economic transactions based on structured data, whereas unstructured data, in a sense, provides a vision of what could happen in the future in terms of financial transactions. So I'll spend a few minutes talking about that shortly. The second finding is that we see more and more decisions being taken by machines in organizations. Later on in these sessions, we'll talk about RPAs, and perhaps we'll talk about AI and machine learning, and we'll see that RPAs themselves are the subject of change through artificial intelligence. The third thing, which is also as crucial, is that as accountants, we used to have an accounting information system that reflects changes in the products or services of the organization. Today, the two are becoming intertwined, they're becoming joined, and this means that the product embeds the accounting information system, which itself has quite important implications. So to turn to the first element, we are used to looking at structured data, and what happens is that this structured data is reliant on economic transactions. The accountants converts this into accounting data and then digestible financial information, income statements, budgets, balance sheets, and so on. The decision maker relies on that information. What has not taken place to any great degree is this horde of unstructured data, which is the antecedent to economic transactions. So if I said to you, you can read today's newspaper, you would say, well, that's great. That is today and yesterday's news. If I said you can read tomorrow's newspaper today, I think you would jump on it. And this is exactly what unstructured data represents. So a huge data set that accountants have to confront in order to maintain their relevance. The second point that I mentioned is the extent to which machines are making decisions. So as accountants, we are used to looking at data which we format into financial insights for decision makers to make decisions. The actions create more data. The data is captured by accountants, produced in a readable format for humans who make further decisions and so on. So we often refer to this as the planning and control framework. I think increasingly what is happening is that we have data that is analyzed by machines. The machines themselves take action independently of humans. And of course, those actions produce more data. and you find that there is a second feedback loop that is very, very, very rapidly emerging. And the important thing to understand is that machines don't need any specific formats to make decisions. Humans cannot look at raw data and make decisions. It has to go through an accounting re-representation domain before decision can be made. The machine does not need to understand accountancy. The machine can go from data to action. In fact, it even bypasses the step of decision making. You go straight from data to action. That takes place increasingly rapidly. More and more data is generated, which then gives rise to the opportunity for machine learning. As that loop unravels faster and faster, we'll see, as was suggested by Khurshid, we'll reach a point of singularity where machines' ability to make good decisions supersede those of humans. So these are quite important trends in terms of machines starting to make decisions, creating more data on which they can learn even more how to make better decisions. The third point that I mentioned is that we have information systems that are becoming embedded into services and products. And the important thing is that those digital technologies also talk to one another. And that talking to one another also unravels and triggers a new chain of learning. And so machines talking combined with artificial intelligence and machine learning will and is making an impact on decision making. And this is a point that I'll come back to quite shortly in terms of the implications for accounting and finance professionals. Now, traditionally, we've been used as accountants to look for cost savings based on what we understand about analog processes. Commerce, organizations, industry shifting into a digital era. And as accountants and financial professionals, we need to move away from an understanding of the analog world into an understanding of what digitization represents. And I think what we will see is that data gets created through action. That data enables learning, which enables more action to be taken, which produces more data, and so on. This feedback loop is getting faster and faster, stronger and stronger within those organizations that have made forays into digitalization. Once this happens, it is like a snowball that becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. And it'll be very, very difficult for organizations that don't enter the digital domain to catch up with that. So this is really learning on steroids because of the production of digital data, which means that accountants also have to have a dose of steroids. I'll very briefly outline, because there's very little time for me to unravel sort of everything in terms of impact on accounting. But from my observations, performance evaluation, which is a key task of the finance function, is changing very, very rapidly. We are seeing newer generations, the Z generation, the millennials, having very different precepts as to what they should be judged on, what is good performance, and they're basing certain actions and decisions on digital data, which is inimical to the control systems established by the previous generation. So that gap needs to be shortened and bridged and aligned. What I also find is that organizations that invest in digitalization think that you only rely on data, and as you become more data-driven, you should become more quantitative. You should rely more on metrics, on calculative indicators of performance. I think this could not be further from the truth. As we digitalize, as we invest into digital technologies that produce more data, our value added is actually becoming more qualitatively oriented. What are the insights that are unraveled through an understanding of digitalization? And this is crucial for accountants to understand. What's also important is that it takes more than technology and accounting to drive organizations, a lot more than that. And this is what accountants have focused on in the past. I think accountants will increasingly have to have a greater understanding of issues such as demographic changes, sustainability issues of data protection, information access, and of course, understanding at least some technical aspects of digitalization. So it's inevitable that the accountant's skill set will have to grow much more than it has sort of focused on traditionally. I think what is also really quite important to understand is that not only is accounting changing, but management itself is changing. A lot of the management fundamentals are deeply invested into traditional conceptions of industrial workings. As we transition into a more digital economy, management decision and management fundamentals are changing. And when we marry the two, changed management and changed accounting potential, that integration is the work of financial people to integrate effectively in order to render their services as legitimate and as valuable as they have been in the past. The final point that I want to briefly focus on, which is, I think, on every finance person's mind, is how will jobs change? What is the impact of digitalization and automation for finance professionals? And there are a number of studies that have been undertaken that look at this question. I think what is probably very clear is that the level of education has in the past translated into the level of financial professionalism, the finance elements of a job in the delivery of specific services. And those are the jobs that are really at stake. Those are the jobs that are going to be much more quickly automated. We're going to see a transition taking place. As was suggested, we're not far from that. I think, the suggestion that is 10 years away is probably conservative. It is faster than that. It's taking place extremely rapidly. I think also that in organizations that do not change quickly, there will be global players who will offer a better service, much cheaper, which is less reliant on technical professional labor. So we have to act quite quickly. I think the jobs that are less at stake in terms of automation are the ones that rely on a high degree of education. And as I mentioned, that piggyback on a greater understanding of wider issues that impact the accounting and the finance person's task. So a greater understanding, more intelligence around broader issues is going to, in a sense, protect and enhance the work of finance professionals. There are a huge number of, I think, opportunities for skill sets and a huge number of risks. Those are in the literature and they've been highlighted in finance journals, and it is a good idea to look at those. What is very clear is that there is a greater predisposition on the part of individuals to access data that is digitized. Almost all data is digitized today. That is changing the basis of the human condition. And I wanted to, as a final part of this presentation, to look at the relationship between happiness and digitization or digital competitiveness. A number of studies have been undertaken, and you will see that countries which focus on digitalization seem, however you define it, and there are many definitions of happiness, however you define it, there seems to be a correlation between digital competitiveness and level of happiness across nations. Correlation does not mean causation, of course, but there is a sense in which life becomes easier, perhaps because standards of living increase when digitalization and automation is accepted. So I think it rests on us as a core responsibility to advance society, to advance the region, to advance Pakistan and other countries in which you operate towards a greater sense of understanding the role of digitization and automation in our work and in the growth of organization. So with that, I'd like to thank you for listening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The good news is, as digitalization increase, happiness increase, and we are also to be happy that jobs will not be reduced, but the form and the way we are doing will change. But the important thing is interact quickly. Thank you, sir, for your insight. I really enjoyed your presentation. Next is the keynote speech, and we are honored to have our keynote speaker, Mr. Nadeem Hussain. The topic of his keynote speech is repetitive performance automation, artificial intelligence, and blockchain technologies developments, and the role of finance professional can play. Nadeem is a leading social impact entrepreneur, technology investor, and financial inclusion pioneer. Nadeem is the founder of Planet N Group, a high-tech and social impact investment firm with portfolio companies in Pakistan, Egypt, UAE, UK. Nadeem previously founded Telenor Microfinance Bank, previous Tamir, founded Easy Pesa, one of the world's best performing and most impactful microfinance banks, now owned by Telenor and Alibaba. Nadeem is dedicated to furthering financial inclusion and fostering development through digitalization. Nadeem is a global authority on financial inclusion and development through digitalization and has been a speaker at Harvard, Columbia, and many other August forums. So please welcome our keynote speaker, Mr. Nadeem Sen.
Thank you, Ziyad. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity, and thank you to Khurshid, who has followed up and harassed me more than any other keynote I've ever made in my life. So she is an amazing person, and I thank her for it. So, gentlemen and ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to take you out of your comfort box today. So while my talk is supposed to be on RPA and the impact on the accounting profession, I'm going to take a real life case and talk about the implication of AI, big data, and RPA in my next big project. As those who are aware in Pakistan may be aware that the State Bank of Pakistan has issued 5 licenses for digital banks in Pakistan out of 22 applications. Planet N Group, along with Park Kuwait, it was one of the successful applicants and has received a no objection certificate from the State Bank to create a digital bank in Pakistan. And what I want to do is anchor my talk today about how we are going to use AI, big data, and RPA to create this bank. We are a digital bank, we're Sharia compliant, but we have no brand. Nobody knows what Rakmi Islamic Digital Bank is. So if I'm going to compete, or we are going to compete with large established commercial banks, with large established Sharia compliant banks, then we need to figure out how we are going to harness AI, big data, and RPA. Why? Because big banks have low cost of funds, they have branches. Retail bank is not good. Digital retail bank is going to have no branches. So we need to compete, in my view, on 4 things. We need to compete on the customer journey, where we'll be using AI, and I'll give you practical implications. What do I mean by that? We need to compete on credit underwriting. You'd be surprised if I told you in a country of 220 million people, there are only close to 11 million active loan customers in entire Pakistan, It takes 2 months to open a bank account for a private limited company. Maybe if you're lucky, it'll take a month. To provide credit to a new to industry person, it takes 2 months. If you want a credit card and you're not already an existing customer of a bank, it'll take you 2 months. And the entire process is paper-based. Real-time settlement of financial transactions sometimes takes 2 to 3 hours to happen, as opposed to instant settlement, which is a requirement. HBL and large big banks have 15 to 20,000 people in their staff, 350 people in just the compliance function. I have no idea what they're going to have in the accounting or CFO function. I can tell you that Rakmi Bank is going to have 7 people. That's it. And I'll tell you how we expect to achieve that. That's why RPA will take a major role. Technology, as the earlier speaker, Mr. Anur, said, is going to overtake us. You can't sit back and think that, this is happening anywhere else in the world. You've got to do it now. So what are the blocks that we are building Rakmi Islamic Bank in, so that you can understand how technology is going to play a huge part? Since we are a new bank, we have no legacy systems, which means that we don't have to worry about making changes in a core banking stack, which a Temenos or Oracle or provider can take 3 to 4 months for a simple change to change the customer journey. So we're building a technology stack from scratch. We built it. So that's not our issue. Most commercial banks, unfortunately, feel that digital banking is about the front-end app, that you've got a great, sexy app with great customer journey, but the back end of the banks is yet to be automated. That's why it takes 2 months to open a company bank account. That's why it takes 3 hours to settle a financial transaction. That's why it takes sometimes 2 months to approve credit for somebody who's new to the industry. Now, that's where we want to compete, and how will we use technology, how will we use big data, AI, to do that? There is tons and tons of financial information that currently resides in the banks, but the banks don't use it. So the credit card information is sitting in the credit card department. The account information is sitting in the branches. Payment information is sitting in the money transfer department. And there is no customer profiling to understand what the entire customer profile is, let alone figuring out what the best method of engaging with the customer on social media is. 65% of Pakistan is under 25. We have the largest youth cohort in the world. So if we're going to create something, we cannot ignore this segment, even though they're not earners right now, but they will become earners. So let me give you some examples first of big data AI, and then I'll talk about RPA as well. Why is RPA important? Because RPA is because I can compete on 2 things. I can compete on revenue, I can compete on cost, and I can compete on efficiency. So 3 things. The last company I built, Telenor, Easy Paisa, Tamir Bank, Easy Paisa, was valued at $410 million by Ant Financial Services when they acquired 45% stake in it. The team's ambition now is to actually build $1 billion company. If we're going to build $1 billion company, then I'll tell you right now, even when we are worth $1 billion and we have 10 or 15 million active customers, whether they are loans, whether they're savings, investments, payments, or takaful, we're not going to have more than 200 people. 200 people at best is the maximum staff Rakmi Islamic Digital Bank is going to have, which means that we can't just say, technology is good. We've got to eat, drink, and sleep technology. Our decision making has to be based on data sets which are available to us. But I will agree with, Mr. Al-Noor, that data cannot substitute at the end human decision making. So data gives you a set of decision making. Repetitive stuff can be done by data, but in the end, the human element will come in. You can't have, a database CEO just going to run the bank based on just data. It doesn't work like that. Although many of the interactions we're hoping to have at the front end with the customer and at the back end are going to be totally reliant on technology. Our aim is to open a 1-minute account in 1 minute. Our aim is to open a company account, which is 2 months right now, under an hour. our aim is to give a credit decision under 10 seconds. Now, how are we going to do that? Is going to be based on the data we extract. First of all, we're going to be an open API bank. That means we're going to have 25, 30 partners who do stuff really well, which we don't want to reinvent. So we will engage with them on two bases: that give us the customer data you have. You and I will both share the customer. We will use that data to create credit algorithms to then use our credit engine to immediately make a decision, and in some cases, pre-approve that customer. So let's say we talk about FMCGs. FMCGs provide the good to the retailers, the kiryanas, the superstores, the pharmacies through distributors. Every month, again, this is talking about repetitive transactions. Every month, these retailers, 5.1 million kiryana stores, superstores, pharmacy stores, order branded goods, either from the distributor or from the slew of tech companies like Dastagir, Retailo, Bazaar, Jugnu, which have come up, which has amalgamated multiple manufacturers onto a single app for the retailer to order. This is data. Not very difficult for us to take this data and create a single credit engine which says, based on this person's monthly procurement from these FMCGs and based on his sale, because the order cycle is 7 days, I would be able to tell how much is he ordering, therefore how much is he selling. And I create a simple algorithm which says, based on his weekly procurement, I will provide credit to the FMCGs to provide goods to this retailer. Now, this is not rocket science, but it's not been done. Supply chain finance, which is trillions of rupees in Pakistan, has not been digitized. Obviously, we need to figure out how are we going to collect the money, because we are a branchless, we don't have any branches. How are we going to make sure that the money is given on time? How do we open the company account? So those are all customer flows. The first thing I'm saying is there's no documentation. I don't want the 7-page account, loan processing. I can do in terms and conditions. Once I have the data, my credit engine, after we've done our pilots, will make a decision in 20 seconds, and we will credit the FMCG's account under a minute, and we will advise the FMCG and the distributor and the retailer so that he knows that the funding has taken place. That's, in my view, is the easier part. Now comes the RPA part, because what's RPA? RPA is basically taking a disparate set of clicks on a computer that a manual process does and automates it by creating a script and mimicking the human action. So all these manual processing of inputting data based on the loan that we've generated, based on the invoice of that particular retailer, can all be done through RPA. That's why our finance people, we're talking about in operation, maybe. So in the 200 people we're talking about, 50 are data scientists. All the data scientists, analytics, that's all their job there is. Every process automated, every process is set of financial results coming out. 50 people in tech. We're a tech-driven entity. 50% is just tech and data science. So we've got 7 to 8 people in finance, 4 people to 5 people in compliance instead of 150. And the rest, 25 to 30, are product managers, segment managers, research people, UI, UX people. The core functions that a bank has in terms of traditional banking of accounting, audit, finance, human resources, in the total of 200 people is going to be less than 25, because it's the intention to use big data, use AI, use RPA. RPA actually is one of the most disruptive technologies. I mean, a Deloitte study says that 53% of all organizations are using it, but not surprisingly, only 1/3 of this number is actually using it for accounting purposes. So you as a group need to figure out, why are you lagging so behind? I understand it's easy for doing repetitive tasks in manufacturing, creating a car or assembly line. But as various speakers will tell you today, there are many repetitive tasks in accounting. If I'm doing invoice processing, if I'm doing expense management, if I'm doing payable processing, if I'm doing payroll management, All these are repetitive processes that OCR can use to extract data from an email or from an invoice, create, the payment mechanism, pass the financial accounting entry, and even, have best market practices on doing AI-based or RPA-based audits. Now, it doesn't replace the full audit function, but it clearly reduces my cost. So for a digital bank, unit economics is one of the principal things we need to focus on. And unit economics is obviously based on how much cost I'm going to spend in acquiring a customer, but more importantly, how much cost am I going to incur in actual processing the transaction. Now, if I have 150 people in operations and accounting manually doing this, there's no way I can create the unit cost that I'm looking for. So from day one, we are looking at RPA of which financial repetitive transactions can be automated. Day one, using technology. We have the Rakmi Knowledge Platform, which will take data from our open API partners, all data that we already have, and build customer profiling. Using AI, we will then decide when to upsell, cross-sell, and look at the customer journey to figure out when to provide the relevant intervention as far as the customer is concerned. But that's the marketing or the customer side. But there's also a side for the regulatory stuff, which can be using AI and RPA extent as well. Are there anomalies in what the customer flow is? The AI easily picks it up, this transaction, which is beyond the normal pattern. Even regulatory compliance, we can put in through these AI engines what the best audit practices are. So before the even audit comes in, AI is being used to do a self-audit and it's being processing itself. Again, both for unit economics and for the customer journey, we've got to figure out that if it's taking 3 hours for a bank to reconcile because the bank has sent a statement, they need to send a statement out, why can't it be done in microseconds, let alone minutes? And that's what we want to build the system for, starting from day one. Instant, credit, instant debit. And right now, it will take you about 2 hours for, if you're using one link to get a credit to your account, which finally gets reflected. It might show up in your customer account, but the entire transaction is not complete. So the point I'm making is that this is not just academics. We put $25 million in the capital of the company. Our intention and hope is to create a $1 billion company. And if we could create a $500 million company, certainly creating a $1 billion company is not outside the realm of possibility. But the structure to start with of Rakmi Islamic Digital Bank is based on tech, is based on AI, is based on big data and RPAs. And our intention, and if you call me back after a year or 2 years to tell you how we've actually performed, I'll be able to tell you this vision of ours of using this technology from day one and creating a bank which actually is looking from the customer lens, understanding the customer journey and providing decisioning, whether it's for savings, lending, takaful, payments, or information in microseconds. Yes, generation of people under 65 takes microseconds to decide if they're going to transact with you or not. On Instagram, if they're looking at their read, microseconds, either you'll engage them or not. With 65% of your population under 25, you got to cater and think about how to address this population, which is tech savvy, which is not looking for checkbooks, which is not looking for visits to your branch, but are looking for fulfillment sitting where they are. So, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you once again for this opportunity to be your keynote speaker. I hope I've been able to demonstrate the real life practical application of the technologies that we are talking about. And I thank you once again for listening to me.
Thank you, Nadeem Hussain Saab. And we have few questions from the audience for you. Number one is, how do you see the future of branchless banking like Stripe in USA? And what is State Bank of Pakistan plan for future?
So, branchless banking, in this definition has two connotations. That you actually don't have a physical bank branch. So the State Bank, this is what EasyPesa did 11 years ago. We started using retail outlets and created them into a bank. So that was under the branchless banking license, which means that you don't have a physical branch of a bank which can cost you several million rupees, but you use an existing railroad and provide three main services: deposit, credit, transfers. That's 90% of the use case for customers in Pakistan. They're not looking for financial guarantees, LCs. That's not 99% of Pakistan. So branchless banking exists. If you're talking about branches, definition being a regular bank branch. Now, the other one, like you're talking about Stripe, PayPal, that's coming in through the EMI license that the State Bank has created. There are 8 EMI licenses and now 5 digital bank licenses, and none of them are going to have a branch. But if I have a wallet, how do you populate it? You populate it either one of two ways. Somebody does a interbank transfer to an IBFT or a RAS to populate that wallet, or he physically goes to a location and puts cash in it. So while you have digital banking, until your level of digitalization becomes so high that your wallets are being populated, your payroll is coming in, people are doing transfers, you will need physical locations to populate your wallet.
Thank you, Nadeem Saab. The next question is about credit rating agencies. Will there be specialist credit rating agencies? I mean, the question may be related to RPA. Will there be any RPA to transform this job? So please share your thoughts.
Very honestly, maybe other speakers will be able to give a better answer than that. My view is, obviously, like any assessment, a credit agency looks at your portfolio, looks at your liquidity, looks at your concentration of depositors, looks at your price sensitivity, your tenor mismatch between your funding and lending. Now, a large portion of that could be automated. Sensitivity tests are already being run, could be even better. But my view is, at the end of the day, like an auditor's report, a credit rating agency will have the human element at the end of it, but a lot of its assessment could be using AI big data to create the data sets to come to a end credit report.
Thank you, Nadeem Saab. And we will be noting down more questions and we will be sending to you formally because we are short of time, and we honor your presence, and it was wonderful keynote. And I wish that 2 months time of opening a bank account convert into 1 minute. It will be a very good benefit for companies and the individuals. Thank you, sir, for gracing this occasion. Next is the panel discussion on the topic of importance and need for intelligent automation, and there will be a lot of different aspects will be discussed by our worthy panelists. So I will be inviting our moderator. Today, moderator is Mr. Farooq Najam. He is a member of Digital Accounting and Assurance Board. He's a finance professional turned data scientist with a master's degree in data science from University of Texas. He has extensive experience working with A. Ferguson Karachi and PwC New York offices data analytics practice. Farooq's key strengths are identifying process inefficiencies and using technology to automate them. He is a strong advocate of RPA and proficient in using various tools. Currently, he's working with Meta on their finance innovation initiative. Please put your virtual thumbs up for these worthy panelists, and stage is yours, Mr. Farooq Najmi.
Thank you, Zad. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Firstly, I'm honored to be hosting this panel discussion today. I'm thankful to ICAP for the opportunity. So as somebody who's gone through this rigor, and I know there are a lot of questions for beginners, for managerial level people, and for the CFOs on what needs to be done. So I'm going to just briefly start with telling you about my journey, because I am somebody who started like most of us as an accountant, but there came a point in my life when I realized that there's more to what we can do, and the power of technology is huge. which is when I started to think about technology and embarked on my journey to learn data science. And to be honest, anybody can do that, and anybody can come forward, provided you have the willingness to go forth with it. And once you start on a journey of being a digital accountant, learning finance as well as technology, the number of opportunities that technology can open for you is mind-boggling. You will be surprised with what you can get. It's important to understand that there are increasing pressures on costs and margins on corporations, and they are always looking to make cost cuts. If you refuse to digitally upskill yourself today, there will be somebody else who will do it. And you will be regarded redundant very soon. I don't mean to scare anybody, but I want people to take charge of their careers, and what I like to call is like a digital emergency for yourself, for your teams, for the processes that make up your team. It's imperative to understand what technology can do. But there's a question everybody asks, and as a beginner, even I struggle to understand what exactly needs to be done. So I'm going to just lay down very briefly a few steps that each of you can think about and actively take charge of your career, your professional development. So firstly, know that all the words that you hear, blockchain, RPA, AI, a lot of them are buzzwords, but you need to know more than just what the buzzwords are. You need to get into the weeds of what these buzzwords mean. Number two, take the time to understand the right technology terms, because there's a lot of data out there. There's a lot of training courses out there. There's a lot of things that you can learn, but every person who starts off to become a data scientist or a data engineer struggles with where to start and what to learn. Narrow down your focus. Try to understand what you need. Do the research so that you know what you want to get yourself into. Make regular time for learning, whether you are a student, you're a new qualified accountant, or even if you're a CFO. If you do not learn today, the pace at which technology is changing, the pace at which the way the tasks are being done are changing, you will be in for a surprise. And lastly, persevere, find a mentor, and stay steadfast to your beliefs. With all that said, I want to jump into our core panel discussion. I have an esteemed panel of guests here who will be sharing their personal experiences on robotics, process automation, and how they found these technologies to grow their businesses or to grow the different technology companies that they have been a part of. So I would like to introduce firstly Mr. Zubair Ahmed Subani, who's the founder and CEO of Think Ventures. Mr. Zubair is a global business executive, board leader, and investor with over 35 years of financial and C-suite experience in scaling new ventures and multiplying businesses. He works primarily in the MENA region and North America. Mr. Zubair possesses a track record of excelling in roles as a board member, as a director, chief operating officer, and a partner, leveraging a collaborative spirit to charge strategic decision blended with financial acumen and data-driven business intelligence. Furthermore, he's an advocate of digital reengineering, business processes to deliver scale and impact in a rapidly changing world, and has pioneered and led AI-led analytics-powered digitization of supply chain to achieve billions of dollars in inventory cost savings. Welcome to the panel, Mr. Zubair.
Thank you.
The next panelist is Mr. Farooq Muhammad, who is currently serving as the managing director at Embark USA. He's an accomplished data and analytics leader with more than 2 decades of experience in diverse range of industries. He specializes in optimizing finance, accounting, and technology, and has expertise which spans digital transformations, cloud migrations, system integrations, data engineering, and data science. Prior to joining Embark, he spearheaded a number of successful initiatives and programs focusing on digital and finance transformation, technology, and modernization of data strategy and analytics. Welcome, Mr. Farooq. And we also have Mr. Syed Asif Zaman, who is an SCA and possesses more than 25 years of diversified experience in the fields of audit and assurance, consultancy, finance and cost management, and accounting. Currently, he's heading a group of companies working in the space of audit and assurance, consultancy, software development, emerging technologies, and trading business based in Dubai, and having offices across UAE, Malaysia, Canada, Saudi Arabia, UK, India, and Pakistan. He also possesses certifications in fintech, blockchain, and AI from the Oxford University, and he's also a systems information systems auditor, certified information system auditor. Welcome, Asif sir. Thank you for being part of this discussion. It's an honor to have you all here. I'm going to jump into our questions because I know there are a lot of things that people want to hear from you. I'll start off with Mrs. Zubair. Mrs. Zubair, you've been part of different RPA-related projects. In your experience, what is the most impactful RPA project that you have implemented? And if you were to quantify the benefits that it brought to the organization, how would you go about it?
Great. Thank you so much, Farooq. First of all, thank you for a good introduction that you did for me. My only qualification, I always tell, is I'm a salesman. I'm not a technologist, I'm not an investor, I'm just a salesman. That's my main job description. So talking about the implications of the RPAs that I have been involved in, right? So I have done several RPA implementations. Two of them that comes one is from a front end side, which is basically talking about sales automation, and the second that I can talk about is the automation that is related to the processing side. And since we are most of the people here are coming for accounting related information, so I will talk a little bit on both areas of the business, right? So let me first talk from a front end side. So in any sales organization, the cost of marketing is a big element to the business, right? So we have implemented RPA solution in automating the lead generation side of the business and giving information to the business. So typically, and I'm talking about an example that we did for a big car manufacturer, where a huge amount of investment was done to generate leads, and huge amount of investment was done to create call centers which would answer questions to the customers. So we did an RPA implementation there, primarily using simple technology, using chatbots, which actually help to reduce the cost per lead in a very big way, improve the time to give answers to the customers. And if I want to quantify, I would say that we were able to reduce the cost per lead to almost 80%. So this is one example from a front end of the business. From the back end of the business, we did some work, and actually it is still ongoing. It is not fully implemented. It is in pilot stage at this point, where a big, large grocery chain, supermarket chain, they have distributed good receiving from almost 80 locations, and those good receiving notes have to be matched with the purchase orders, and then the payment to the vendors, because that's a whole process. And in this whole process, they have close to 150 people involved. And using the RPA implementation, which is completely end-to-end, which is starting from scanning of the invoices to matching it with the purchase orders to matching it with the terms of payment and processing the payments, right? So overall, the cost of processing, already we have started seeing some results. We have, because it's in early stages, we have seen that it has already gone down to almost 30-40%. However, our commitment is that in 2 years' time, when it is fully implemented and when the machine learning will keep doing the things that are currently being done manually, this type of situation will make a big difference and almost reduce the cost by almost 80%. This is our expectation. So these are the two examples. One from a front-end side, which is the automation in terms of getting the business, and second from the back end of which is basically making sure that the cost is taken care of.
Thank you, Zubair Sahab. And just to add to it, I believe you use some RPA tools as well in that process. I believe Automation Anywhere, if I'm not mistaken.
Automation Anywhere, Blue Prism, both of the tools were used. These are different. It all depends on the situation, what systems they have, and how the client is comfortable using the cloud tools or on-premise tools. So that decision is made based on that, but automation anywhere is my preferred tool.
Great, awesome. With that, I'll move on to our next question for Mr. Farooq. Farooq, you have been in the technology sphere for a while now, and since working for a finance-focused consulting firm, it's imperative that you work with RPA, intelligent automation. So, as a starter, how would you define, so that the buzzwords do not create a lot of confusion, what is intelligent automation? How would you define that, and why do you think that is something useful for the accountants?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on this panel, and thank you so much for inviting to the ICAP to speak. And truly humbled to have listened to both the speakers ahead of me, Dr. Al-Noor, who truly presented such a good paradigm shift, insights into paradigm shift into accounting, as well as Mr. Nadeem, who shared on what are the challenges on the ground. And it's very strange that you and me both share the same name, Farooq. So we definitely need some sort of AI to sort of differentiate them. So to answer your question, Farooq, what I would say is, yes, it's catching up. Everything is coming down the wire pretty quickly, especially with the release of ChatGPT. The AI is on steroids, and it's become so pervasive that it is impacting almost every enterprise, every organization, and every tool and technology to sort of start thinking on what AI means to me. So from an end user perspective, I would definitely say that, okay, how do my current business role or my current roles and responsibilities within my job are going to be relevant to the world of AI, right? So if I'm doing some sort of very low and repetitive tasks, so that could potentially be an opportunity for automation. It doesn't mean that the jobs are going to become insecure or our work is going to go away, but it's going to become that any waste in our processes, any waste in our daily job routines needs to be removed and improved. So as I'm going to piggyback on what Dr. Noor sort of presented, he sort of showed a picture of like actions, data, and learning. And that's truly a very good sort of representation of what's going to happen. So if you think of actions, so anything that you do with your mouse clicks, or if you do anything with your keyboards, those are all actions. Those just may be automated pretty soon. So those may go away. So you may not need to use your mouse clicks. You may not need to use your keyboards. You may use more of dictation. And I do that in my email typing and all. I don't use keyboard. I just keep talking on my mic. And then when you're talking on the mic, the AI robot can come into play, and it can make some suggestions. So think about whatever you're doing in your current world, if you're using your mic and keyboard, those can be automated. And the tools that can help you automate are RPA tools. And it could be UiPath, or it could be automation anywhere. It could be even things embedded within your browser, right? So what are thanks. So for example, if you have anything that you're doing in current world that you need to log into a particular application, you put in your login and password, then you click in a bunch of screens, you enter a data, you export a data, or you log into another screen and take it over. All those kind of clicks and typing through the keyboards can definitely be sort of rolled into an RPA kind of robot that can do it for you. Well, when that is done, what that does is it relieves you from doing much more high-level activities. Once the data is presented by the robot to you, you can do much more analytical and decision-making sort of tasks, and it can make your job more and more efficient. So I'm not sure whether I'm answering exactly your question, but what I'm saying is intelligent automation is a much loaded word, and it is not too far. It is coming down the road. But when we think from a day-to-day job perspective, the three tools that are on the front burner, especially the place where I'm working, are the UiPath for RPA, and then the Alteryx for data processing, and then Power BI for visualization. If you really want to relate it to the current tool sets that we can leverage today. I'll take a pause here if you have any questions.
No, thank you. I think you just hit it spot on. The power of the three technologies which are being used by UiPath, Alteryx, and Power BI. It's important to understand while Power BI has become a very much prevalent tool across the world. Alteryx and UiPath are catching up very fast, and the power of UiPath and Alteryx is extremely worth noticing, especially for the accounting world. Really appreciate that, Farooq. Thank you for that. With that, I just while we are on the topic of intelligent automation, I did want to share that what Farooq mentioned, like the most basic tasks that somebody can automate. I remember creating a bot a few years back where in the morning when you open up your laptop, there are a few different tasks, like you mentioned, that you need to do in order to get started while you get your coffee or your tea. And the bot used to do that, which means that it would open up your mailboxes, it would open up your ERP systems, because obviously that takes time to load and get your user IDs and passwords in there, and then eventually get maybe a news channel that you want to read news on in the morning. So I remember doing that, and it would save me a lot of time, that rather than sitting there and doing that, it got all done while I could just go and get myself some coffee. So thank you for sharing that. With that, we'll make a little segue into another very important sphere of technology. We have seen how the technology is changing, and we are now entering into Web 3.0, which means that blockchain technology is taking over a lot of things. And while with cryptocurrency, we all have heard a lot about blockchain, but it's unfortunate that not everybody of us goes into and gets a more detailed understanding and analysis of what blockchain are, what is the power of blockchain. And for that, we have Sisab here, who is going to explain. Sisab, you can tell a little bit about blockchain and from a security angle. So firstly, I think what basically is blockchain, the technology behind blockchain, and what are the different security issues that come with it?
Yeah, first of all, I just want to start. My voice is clear?
Yes.
Farooq?
Yeah. Okay. Yes, I can.
You remember in 2018 when the Bitcoin went, rocket high, and everything, everybody was talking about Bitcoin. At that time, I was also curious that what is Bitcoin, how things goes on. So I tried to explore, and I try to teach myself, going online courses and everything like that. But unfortunately, it was not enough, I think. Then what happened, then after that, I took a course from Oxford University, 8-week course on blockchain strategy program, to understand that how blockchain works and what are the blockchain. And after that, I took a course. I think that it was not enough. Then I took course on fintech. Then later on, I took course on artificial intelligence. And I start exploring and going on the, attending some conferences over there. Blockchain simple is a ledger, way of writing a ledger. The books, accounts which we are writing. I will tell you on a layman language what is a blockchain. Blockchain is that you see that when you are making an entry, after that you have an option to do edit, or you can do delete and everything like that. Blockchain doesn't allow an entry to edit or to delete it. It means it is it is permanent. It cannot be changed. If you want to make a change, you have to create another block, which for the common accounting terms, you have to make a JV for it. So it means once an record have been written, it cannot be deleted, it cannot be edited in any case. Then blockchain works on a decentralized system. Decentralized system means that if me and Zubair Saab sitting in Saudi Arabia, I'm sitting in UAE, we are doing a transactions. I'm sending some goods to Zubair Saab is sending money to me, or we are doing some exchange things there. So what happened, end of the day, there could be a difference in books of Zubair Saab and my books. No, Zubair Saab may be writing something, receivable, I'll be writing, and maybe, exchange difference could be there, or we may have difference on some charges included there. So what happened in end of the day, we have to do the reconciliation in any case, with the passage of time, which is a normal accounting procedures or audit like bank reconciliation or this reconciliation. But now blockchain has introduced a system which is decentralized. It means what transaction between me and Zubair Saab is doing, it is apparent to me and Zubair Saab both at a time. So entries cannot be passed unless me and Zubair Saab agreeing on that entry. So entries part, and there is a, I'm talking about name, and that's why some technical terms are there, hashing is there, and cryptography is there. So they get the entries. This is called, there is a second part, third part is called triple entry. That's why it's called. It's a part which is making that two entries together. I give you an example, and blockchains are two permissible are there. There are a public blockchain, there are private blockchain, and there are semi-private. For example, I give you a very small example that we are working on like taxations, and when we are invoicing, raising an invoice for a tax one, like for example, the tax is 20% for simplicity. I make an invoice for 100 rupees good for 120. I send to the client. So they will do their settlement and they will quarterly do. Now the blockchain helps to have an online real-time basis accounting for the taxation. It means when I have sent an invoice to Zubair Sahab for 120 and Zubair Sahab is paying me, he will pay 100 to me and 20 will go directly to the exchequer. The third party, which is a government agency, it monitors all the transactions. The entries in Zubair Sahab books and my books will be only entered when the third party, which is the government agencies, can put on them. So it means using the blockchain, the need for validation, for auditing, almost reconciliation becomes zero. I hope that the easy examples you can understand that there is internal working there different.
No, thank you so much for sharing that. And it's interesting what you ended up with, that it eliminates the need for a lot of third-party checks, which obviously we'll, as accountants, we'll be more intrigued to know more about. But thank you, Sam. I'll come back to you in a moment. But before that, so we had some interesting discussion on RPA, and Zubair Sahab, you did a very interesting implementation as well. If you could speak of some of the challenges from a technology and implementation point of view, because obviously these technologies are still in nascent stages and growing. And what were your biggest challenges, especially when we talk about application of RPA in accounting or finance specific tools? Can you speak a little bit about that?
I think the biggest challenge is the mindset. Because we as accountants are always trained to be conservative, right? So when we talk about RPA implementation, and particularly the RPA implementation in the finance and accounting area, the biggest challenge is coming from the mindset that like most senior financial professionals, they have the fear of unknown. So they really don't know, because with the current process of the accounting, the way it is done, or the processing, the way it is done, they have been doing it for so long, and they feel that okay, they can control the process. So one of the biggest challenge that I see is that it's a mindset change, and at the top, more than anything else, mindset change that okay, this is something and this is going to change. Then secondly, obviously, if the processes, for an RPA to be implemented, there are two things which I think you just mentioned as well. It should be repetitive and it should be rule-based. So if you are doing anything once a year, then it does not make sense to do it in an RPA, right? Because it is not repetitive. It is better to do it outside the RPA. For RPA to be successful or have a good ROI, it is very important that it should be repetitive and it should be rule-based. It's not that every time a decision is made that okay, what to do with this transaction or what to do with this thing. Yeah, there can be some exceptions, but it should not be that every single transaction someone has to make a decision. So many organizations, they do not have a proper written processes, or they have a lot of manual processes whereby implementing any RPA solution become very, very challenging, because, I mean, when you go and check the rules, there are no rules. The rule is decided by the top guy, whether it is the big boss, the owner of the company, or the senior executive. Every transaction, the big guy has to make a decision. That is, the RPA cannot work there. So organizations where there are clearly good SOPs, good processes, good policy documentation and everything, RPAs are very, very successful. Third challenge that I see a lot of time that we see is basically, the junior employees or the staff level employees, they have a fear of losing the job. I mean, even though you keep on explaining and, do the buy-in saying that, listen, this is, you can get involved in doing better jobs rather than just getting this repetitive, low value jobs. However, they have this fear. They know that, if RPA is successfully implemented, I might lose my job. So challenges come from providing information or cooperating or making sure that things are done, because, you go and do an implementation, and if your team is not fully on board, it is become where even the top level wants to do it, but the team level, if you don't get that thing, then it is very implemented. So these are the three things that I see. Obviously, from a technical side, there can be a lot of challenges, whether access controls are fully implemented, whether the security, because security is also a big issue. Security is taken, the security policies in a company are implemented properly or not. Yeah, but that just if I summarize it, the biggest challenges is mindset and the fear that people have for implementation of RPA.
I think that's a great point. Mindset at the top is of crucial importance, without which it's very hard to get a buy-in on a entity level. And I hope all our decision makers and CFOs and partners are listening to this and on board, because it's this point at which we all can start the journey. And there are opportunities to learn. There are so many tools and trainings that can be taught to your teams who already understand business, who already understand accounting. And one good example of that is the digital data analytics program introduced by the Digital Assurance and Accounting Board. It's a great example of how you can start leveraging the power of technology, because there are very few courses which are offered from an accountant's and a finance person's perspective and for a local environment. I think ICAP is doing a great job on that, and people who have graduated have found a lot of value in that, and it's something that maybe other corporations and decision makers need to start looking at and have their teams become a part of it. The curriculum is very robust and meets the international guidelines as well. With that, we have another interesting discussion with this. As I noticed that there was a point when I started my articles, there was a lot of emphasis that you have to know two things: your auditing standards and Excel. So Excel, we were made to train in Excel so good that more than half of our work would get easily done. And today, when I see this, at least in the more developed economies, what I notice is that while you need to know your Excel, you also need to know the intelligent automation tools. And the firms have a lot of emphasis on things such as UiPath, Alteryx, and Power BI, what Farooq mentioned a little while ago. Having said that, what is the mindset, Farooq, if I can ask you, and what are the different technologies that somebody who's coming from a business background need to upskill themselves with? I mean, how can they get started? What are the bare minimum technology skills and tools that they need to familiarize and make themselves into an expert?
Yeah, so based on what's going on with my organization, the company I'm working with, we have over 300 to 400 CPAs working. And I would say almost like 95% of the CPAs come in with some sort of technical training. So of course, Excel is not going to totally go away. We love Excel and we can get a lot of things done. So as things get advanced, we start writing macros in Excel, and then we hit the limitation that we can only process 1 million rows, and Excel becomes too big and it's too slow. That's where we need to have some tools on our back pocket. So definitely recommend getting trained on tools like Alteryx. So RPA does a lot of mundane activities. It can log and put down the data. But once you have the data on your end from different sources, different systems, you need to do more, right? You need to transform it. You need to do calculations. You need to do VLOOKUPs. You need to do pivoting of the tables and data, etc. And the data is going to be huge because we're going to have millions and millions of rows of data. So, and if you don't want to like sample it, you want to see the whole data as it is. So you want to learn, so tools like Alteryx definitely are going to help you overcome that. And they're pretty easy to learn. They're pretty low code. You don't need to, I saw a question, what languages do I need to learn? So Alteryx, you don't need a language to learn. It's click and drag and drop. It's beautiful. You have a workflow, you have all the functions, you can just keep on dragging the icons and you can get your data flow done. And what you used to do it for over 8 hours, you can just do maybe in 8 minutes. So even UiPath, you can use like bots to sort of log in and so forth. And once you come on, once you have the data once pulled out from the Alteryx, it's still not ready. It's still machine readable form, right? It's like a dump of raw data. As an accountant, you still need to put that into an income statement format or balance sheet format or cash flow format. You can then use the tools like Power BI to sort of like visualize it, where you can slice and dice the data. You can drill it to transaction level. You can do a bunch of filters. To start with, it may not look like exactly a paper copy format that you're used to, but once you're used to these systems, it'll add more value and you can derive more insights from what's going on. So I would say start with tools like UiPath, start with tools like Alteryx, start with tools like Power BI, and they all have free trial periods or community trial licenses where you can do like unpaid practices on these tools for a long time. You can use that to sort of upskill yourself. And then along the way, if you can keep track of what's going on in the industry, okay, so ChatGPT has come, AI has come, how is it being integrated into your browsers and so forth. So keep tab on what's going on in the industry, right? But on the other side, you also need to have a good business acumen. Whatever company you're working with, whatever field you're working with. If I'm working with I was working with a company that are farmers, so I need to know what's the farming about. So having a business acumen, whether you're working with a manufacturer, you need to know what are they manufacturing, what are their inventories, or how is their warehouse laid out. If you're working with a physician practice or a hospital, you need to know how they're putting on the claims, how does the insurance work. So having the business acumen is another half of the story. And then finally, I would come back to communication skills. Now your RP is doing your like lightweighted works, your Alteryx is doing all your data cleansing and munging, and then you're doing a lot of visualization. But you need to come in front of your management and CFO and tell them the story. You need to convert the data into information very quickly. So learn PowerPoint skills where you can tell a story and communicate succinctly. And so forth. Truly, what Dr. Noor has presented is such a good example of how we can present the information with all the empirical evidences based off data, right? You have all the tools and you use communication. And the last piece on top of that is critical thinking. You're bringing in your thoughts and your value add as a CPA. Okay, you're not just telling what the data is telling you, but you are also giving them suggestions. So I mean, you're sort of doing intelligence on top of the information, right? So need to have all those. And lastly, I would say continuous learning. Keep on tap of like free webinars. I mean, this is such a beautiful example where I got to learn a lot from you all. So I would stop there.
Thank you, Farooq. I really love how you shared the example of how simple trial balance and data dumps are transformed using Alteryx. And we have a lot of questions around what Alteryx is. So we do have a very interesting detailed discussion later in the event on that. But to give you a very basic example for those who are listening, think about your data dump, and every month, if you are looking at your financials, you need to clean up that data. You need to apply subtotals. You need to apply a VLOOKUP. Now imagine if you can get Alteryx, you have to do it. You have to set it up once, and every month, all you need to do is just change your data source from 1 month's trial balance or 1 month's data dump to another month's And what took you maybe 2 hours, you will be able to do within 30 seconds, because you just have to press a button and it does the exact same steps, because that's same steps you're doing every month. It's going to do it on its own. So I'm glad you brought that up. And another thing from a learning perspective, there is a lot of buzz around coding and trying to understand. But I think you mentioned that to start with a low-code environment from Alteryx, UiPath, and Power BI, obviously, that's the basics that students can start working on. Is that right?
Absolutely. If you feel challenges in learning a language like Python, Python is the most prevalent used language, and it's pretty easily learned. I mean, back in the days, maybe 10 years before, it was Java, but now it's Python. If there's one language you definitely want to learn, it would be Python. That's going to continue going into the future. But you don't have to learn a language at this time, because some of these tools are making a low-code language, in the sense that they're taking care of all the complexities of like coding and all. But you need to learn the tools itself. So learning the tool like RPA, like a UiPath or Alteryx, that itself requires some time and investment to understand, okay, this tool works this way. When I'm talking about UiPath, I'm talking about bots. When I'm talking Alteryx, I'm talking about workflows and functions. When I'm talking of Power BI, I'm talking about data model. So just being acclimated to what each tool is different. So if you invest yourself in learning about each of the tools, you may not need to do much of advanced coding at this time. But for a CFA or a chartered accountant, I think these tools would take the very long way.
Right. So is it fair to say that to start with basics, you start with your intelligent automation tools, because there are no-code environments, easy for a business or a finance background person to get into. There are free tools available, free videos available that you can pace up. And even there are certifications that you can do for Alteryx and UiPath online. And I believe for Power BI as well, and just to understand how they work. Python is nice to have, and it's a very, very powerful coding language. I think that's a step after that. But if you can get your hands on, get some training on, great on your resume. And to be fair, let's understand that it takes a lot of iterations. It takes a lot of time to fully know a language, to understand coding, especially if you're coming from a business background. Python is a great programming language, but what I also recommend a lot of accountants especially is to understand how data is queried, which means data fetching, understand SQL, or commonly known as SQL. Try to understand what joins are, how do different tables talk to each other, how do different fields can be connected to each other. So I think that's also something very powerful and helpful from a business and accounting perspective. Thank you, Farouk. And we have another interesting question for Asif, because he introduced at least me to the concept of triple entry accounting, and that's something which fascinated me very much. I would like him to explain it in his own words, and how triple entry accounting can impact an accountant's day at work.
Basically, when you're talking about a triple accounting system, somewhat misleading. It is the third entry. Instead, it's a third component. It is added to the debit credit system. The common thread or the binding component is the blockchain that links the books together and help in linking two separate double entries, and can potentially be viewed as an external auditing purposes. For instance, the individual firm having their own books for the transaction, they go through a contract called, in blockchain, is a smart contract, which eventually, includes every aspect of transaction, what the product was, who was the seller, who was the buyer, and above all, it digitally signed. The smart contracts, which are self-executing contracts, which with the terms written in their programming code, such as the agreement, are automatically executed upon some terms and condition met, that some, like LCs and other things, they can be made once the conditions are fulfilled. So these conditions which can be fulfilled are, accounting for the triple entry, which are the validating points. And smart contracts are built in blockchains, and they help to create this kind of, validation.
So from an accounting perspective, is there an example that you can share?
Yeah, example I have already shared that, for example, that it is electronically, it's a decentralized system. Like in smart contract, I give you an example between, I give example that I am selling a good to Mr. Zubair, and Mr. Zubair will check some, specification. It is okay that we make a smart contract on blockchain that I have sent the good, the money will be on the escrow account, not in the bank, in the system. When the conditions are fulfilled and Mr. Zubair have clicked that, okay, I have received the good, and when the money is, hitting, for example, there are terms and conditions when the money will hit his account, when the goods will reach, for example, it's an ecosystem, for example, it's delivered. So it in the system, it shows that the courier have delivered the goods to Mr. Zubair. Once he signed the documents, looking at the goods, he opens the goods, he checks the goods, he signs. Electronically, the system accepts that Mr. Zubair have accepted the goods. So automatically, the payments which he have already on transit, it is in the system, it will come to me. So it means that system, which is validating system, the third component, smart contract, which is called, triple entry, or you can say the electronically, it will execute the contract itself.
Great. A follow-up to that, and just.
So I just want to add something like that. Sorry, it is very much beneficial, especially in the taxations. It's taxations one. When we are using a blockchain system, most of the countries, they are working on that one. In Thailand and in the UK already, they are in Germany, they are progressing towards that system. It means the payments for the taxations, especially the VAT, or you can say sale tax, will be real-time basis. You don't have to file the returns and everything like that. There will be transparency, and the government exchequers will get their a portion of taxes on time. Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you, Audit. I'll segue into another question, and since we are on the blockchain subject, it's very interesting for a lot of people. A lot of people think about cryptocurrency. A lot of people think about different ways in which other countries are utilizing blockchain to make processes more efficient and more robust. And I believe you did share a few examples with me earlier as well. But from a regulatory compliance perspective, there's always a concern. And some countries, while have gone ahead and introduced measures, how far along do you think we in Pakistan are from that point?
I tell you that it's very clear, change or you will be changed. The problem is that one, that, if we are not changing and we are late on that one. I think since 2-3 years, I'm trying to have the awareness program. I did 8 programs with the State Bank of Pakistan on open banking and other things like that. I was not allowed to do on cryptos. They said it is in our agenda that we cannot even talk about crypto. People are, countries, they are very much far ahead on that one. And they have regulations in place. They are doing these things over there. Like Dubai is one of the hubs over there. And UK, US, you have ATM machines for cryptos there. So we are living in, far behind. And the organizations, the banks, even they declared that they are not, they are against the crypto. They are using the system of blockchain. I give you an example of, if everyone have aware of WeChat. WeChat is the second largest application after WhatsApp. It's have around 800 million users. I think WhatsApp and 1.2 billion, and it's have 800. 70% of the user WeChats are stationed in China, and around their 60 or 70% populations are using that one for doing the transactions. They are buying, selling on WeChat. So see the business, how they are flourishing, and how they are doing these things are there. So the regulators here are far behind on that.
So the argument in defense of that is to protect the interest of the people, so that to protect them from high risk or losses. But yeah, I believe people are still transacting where they have to.
Yeah, I tell you that the largest money laundering and AML, you go and check Google yourself. It's from the fiat currency. It's not from the cryptos. How much cryptos are there? This is not the argument. The argument is all wrong. Look at how much ML, ML requirements are there for the cash transaction. It's not for the fiat. Fiat currency is non-traceable. cryptocurrencies are traceable. There is no fraud. There is no anti-money laundering on that one. Even it is on the system. So once you are in the system, so many, hackers, there are so many frauds going on, cryptos. You can get the money back within 3 days, your cryptos. Why? Because they are in the systems and everything is documented, eKYC, digital onboarding, everything is there. So this kind of things, I think they are even not Googling that how much, frauds are going through fiat currency.
Fair point. So just to conclude this blockchain subject, what can it, as an individual and as corporations, especially from an accounting and finance background, what can they do to upskill themselves and obviously to make a step forward towards better usage of blockchain?
See, first of all is the awareness. Awareness is that ICAP is doing tremendous, efforts. Now the digital board over here is Ms. Khurshid and other people are there. Tremendous is awareness amongst the professionals. First, we have to educate ourselves that, okay, what is this? What is blockchain? AI, digitalization, all are far from 1940s or 50s. They are there. AI is there. Blockchain is just a new technology. So somebody have to explore and somebody first has to go through and learn. There are different courses are there, free courses are there, and courses have been offered almost from all top universities in the world, which is online and it's not very much expensive.
Great. Thank you so much, Asaf. I have a few questions on AI and RPA related. I'll just go ahead and put that across. And before I do that, you talk about trainings and seminars. While we have the digital board has introduced the data analytics, there's also a new certification on TSC for the which is for the auditors in terms of systems audit, which is being introduced and will be starting after Ramzan this year. So that's something which is getting a lot of interest and something definitely as an auditor we need to start talking about as well. So the question is, and I'll put that out, what should be the roadmap for newly qualified chartered accountants, like as business professionals? What learning and knowledge should they have in order to implement digital transformation? Maybe that's something, Farooq, you want to take that? I think we already discussed a little bit about that, the different kind of learning, but if you have anything to add on that, you also
I want to add, if you don't mind.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, see over there that we are talking about now globalization. We are expected to reach 55.7 billion by 2022 virtual accounting and auditing services. And then in transformation, it's not only blockchain, it's blockchain, big data, data analytics, AI, and cloud-based accounting. Now, sitting over there in the homes, you can do all the accounting, you can receive the documents, you can verify the document. So the clouding, when the cloud computing and cloud services are there, it has become drastically changed the way we do the accounting and the auditing. So the students must aware that how they can make use of the cloud computing, cloud services, and all these other things which are applicable to nowadays for accounting or auditing.
Great. Anything else, Zubair?
Yeah, I think, thank you so much. So I think accounting, the way it was done maybe 20, 25 years ago, or even to some extent done, and especially when I go to Pakistan, I see the way things are done. I think this is going to end. So as newly qualified chartered accountants, if they are not embracing technology, or if they are not, as Mr. Zaman mentioned, that, looking at cloud computing and the way it is done, if they do not embrace the way the technology is moving, and especially RPA having a big impact on that, right? Because even, when you look at RPA, for the accounting function, the best RPAs are the people who have done accounting, because you just bring a professional who has just a technical knowledge of RPA. He or she cannot do anything till they really understand accounting. So for career progression perspective, I think the fresh chartered accountants should focus on embracing the new technology. Blockchain is one, RPA is one, basic understanding. And an RPA, the name looks very complicated, but actually it is very simple. If I go back when I started using Excel, and we started using macros. That was RPA in the very basic form, right? And now we are advanced, and there are much more tools and much more low code or no code solutions available. So the most important thing is for the new chartered accountants to be having an open mindset and see what they should learn in order to compete in the global market.
Excellent. That's a great point. I think we just have a few minutes. So I'll take one more question on, especially for corporations. It's a big decision when it comes to implementation of blockchain, RPA, AI, and a costly one as well. If somebody can share, one of you, what are the different steps that when it comes, and again focusing on accounting and finance teams only, what steps do they need to take in order to prioritize what technology or tools that they need to get started with first? Obviously depends on the needs, but still, if we had a best practice, what would that be?
I can take
Sure, please
go ahead. No, go ahead. Ask.
No, please go ahead, sir. No problem.
I think one of the most important thing is, from my perspective, as I've seen, is that to really have a good understanding on what they want to achieve, right? So even though there can be certain steps that can be automated, but for reasons which are just not financial reasons or other reasons, they would like to keep that manual. So just ignore that. So from a starting point, it is very important. And there are so many tools available that go out and, you just do like exploration to see what are the multiple or repetitive steps that are done, right? And one of the things that, what I've seen is that if you have a big vision that, okay, I want to do like a very big implementation, it is always, there are challenges. So taking small steps where you automate small things, low value added things in the beginning, see the results, get the team to be comfortable, and then move forward gradually, that is a good thing. Now it comes of tool selection. I don't know, Mr. Farooq, the other Farooq, he is more, I'm not a very technologist guy, but I don't see big differences in the tools that are available. Yes, there are some tools which have a good support, and the ones that are the UiPath and the Automation Anywhere, Blue Prism, they have a big companies, so they have big support, they have new things coming up, right? But even I have seen that smaller companies, smaller tools, they are also doing very similar things, right? So each of the company have their own situation, and from their own situation, they can make an implementation plan as to what technology they are comfortable with. This is my simple answer for that. Yeah. Sorry, Mr. Asif, I interrupted you.
No, it's fine enough. It's very simple that you see we have to look around that what the things are to be. There are, if you are talking about financial services, there are 1.5 billion people, unbanked people in the world. 1.4 billion people are unbanked. And the technology, you say everybody is using a smartphone. It has a smartphone. So you must to see that how you can reach your customer, your client, your things there through smartphones. And your technology is like cloud-based technology for the auditing and accounting one. I prefer that using a remote, like, traveling times has been saved, and the fixed assets have leverage office are saved. So you can use the small steps for even the SMEs. The SMEs is using first step is that using the cloud services, getting, documents in the Dropbox, how to use the Dropbox, how the auditing can be done, how the verification can be done. So these are some small steps, like applications and accounting softwares can be on, mobile apps are there. So what happened that it becomes easier to do the entries sitting from one part and doing the transactions.
Great. And just to add to that, there are a lot of organizations who are considering or starting to use, even in Pakistan, the use of drones, especially in inventory management, in their manufacturing warehouses, and their where they have a large set of inventory for just stock taking, and that's also something which is gaining a lot of popularity, and also as another example of how actual robots are helping in figuring everything out. I would like to thank Mr. Zubair Subhani, Mr. Asif Zaman, and Mr. Farooq Muhammad for your time. It was a great discussion, and I hope people were able to get a lot of new insights from that. As a conclusion, I think, and this is a general theme of people ask what to do. I think it's important to know what you want, do your research. There's a lot of things out there, whether you're a student or not. You still need to learn technology and get yourself updated. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, panelists. I'll hand it over back to Zaya.
I would like to thank all our experts for sharing real life examples. I have received a lot of questions and most of them have been answered by a worthy panelist. One question is popping up again and again, that what ICAP is doing to automate and in the field, how their students can learn, their members can learn different technologies. So I would like to share what ICAP is doing in these fronts. So number one, ICAP has started data analytics course. It is very comprehensive 3 to 4 months course in which advanced Excel, dashboard preparation, and Power BI, Python, everything is taught in to these members, and it's open to all finance professionals. And anyone can join, and we have conducted we are conducting fourth batch, and more than 200 people have been benefited with this course, and I'm also doing this course recently. So the thing is, if you want to upgrade your technical knowledge, ICAP has provided this platform. You can join us, and many of the thing is, when the course is announced, the new batch is announced, and it is sold out within days. So it is very popular in accountants as well as to the auditors. Second is ICAP is providing SAP free training course for students, and it is a good initiative when students are learning, studying, and then they are also hands-on experience on ERP system. The third important step ICAP will take, which is in pipeline and soon will be announced after Ramadan, that technology assurance certificates. Previously, when I was doing audit, I had to go along with my firm's IT team for auditing systems and for auditing books of accounts. So there were two sets of people going for auditing. And now the thing is that systems are upgrading, people are moving to clouds. Cloud technology is there, different automation are coming, RPA is coming, AI is coming. So now there is a need to combine the efforts, and for that purpose, ICAP is coming up with technology assurance certificate, and it will be announced after Ramadan. And these are the steps for ICAP has taken. Now, as an accountant, as a CFO, as an entrepreneur, as an auditor, it's our job to upgrade our skills so that we are not left behind and we remain competitive in this market. Coming up next is our talk on the topic of role of CFO. Being CFO myself, I am waiting patiently to listen to the worthy experts on this topic, the role of CFO in a digital organization and successful practices to cultivate and sustain the right culture, organization, infrastructure, and processes. For this talk, I have two speakers. First one is Tariq Bou Arfa. He is CFO of Microsoft Middle East and Africa Multi-Country Hub, responsible for overseeing the finance function in 63 countries. With almost 3 decades of experience in finance and management, including 18 years at Microsoft, he has a proven track record of building impactful organizations, driving strategic projects, and ensuring sustainable business growth. Tariq is committed to partnering with regional leaders and maintaining compliance with company procedures, and local regulations. We have with us Mr. Shabkhez Mahmood. He is a successful technology entrepreneur, currently serving as a Chief Operating and Commercial Officer of Aeon Digital FinTech Group and the MENA partner of Outwise. He has extensive experience in business advisory, strategy, capability and capacity building, technology-enabled processes, governance, and risk and control optimization. The stage is yours, Mr. Shabkhez and Tariq.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone, and good afternoon as well. We are dialing in from Bahrain, so it's just turned from good afternoon to the evening. Tariq is joining from Dubai. So firstly, thank you to all of you, the ICAP Digital Insurance Board, headed by Khurshid, for putting together what's been really a very informative session delivered by a very impactful assortment of highly accomplished people. So I'm delighted to share the stage with them. The session I'm facilitating today is titled Role of a CFO in a Digital Organization, as Zad already introduced. To set the context, we have heard a number of speakers talk about the mega trends, how they are impacting the world at large, and more particularly, we're here to discuss how they impact the role of finance and audit professionals. We have already heard quite a bit about the technologies and tools which are enabling the same. Through this session, I hope we will bring out a bit more on other aspects which also need to be considered. So I think already some of the panelists in the last session and Mr. Nadeem and the speakers before have already touched on this. But what I have with me today, Tariq, who I've had the pleasure of knowing for a number of years now. And Tariq is the CFO of a digital organization, Microsoft, which is already enabling the change for many other organizations. So imagine this power of change being available to you, and you have to start with your own, putting your own house in order. So what I was really impressed to see a number of years back now was how Tariq and team are already enabling this change through leveraging the power of technology and really, going beyond that. So with that, I would like to welcome Tariq. Tariq, if you are on speaker now, can you please introduce yourself very briefly? Is there anything that's been missed out that you would like to add?
No, thank you. Can you hear me, by the way?
Perfect.
Okay, good. No, thank you very much. I mean, first of all, I would like to really thank you for the invitation to attend. It's really an honor for me to be part of this webinar. Pakistan, I am from Morocco, but Pakistan is also a country that is close to me. I visited Pakistan a couple of times in the past, so it's always great to be here and of course sharing my own experience on digital transformation. And by the way, it has been so far a very exciting session, because a lot of the stuff that the different experts here have shared are really resonating. I heard a lot of stuff around mindset, a lot of stuff around what about the jobs, how jobs are transforming. I also heard about learning SQL, which is true. We can even go beyond, which is going to Azure, learning Azure is even going further with cloud solutions. But no, very happy to be here, and I'll be very happy to share our own digital transformation, because as a finance organization, I have to say that we have gone through a lot of the topics that have been discussed. Let me share here with this audience our own experience as finance professionals at Microsoft.
Fantastic. No, thank you very much for that, Tariq. Let me maybe, I'm conscious that time is short and there is a lot which a person like you can say. So without losing further time, please can you summarize for us what are the challenges that you faced as a finance function and you typically see other finance functions facing? Already speakers have already highlighted some of those challenges, but it would be nice to hear that from a digital organization perspective as well.
Definitely. So look, I mean, we are also coming from a long way, at Microsoft. I joined Microsoft 18 years ago, and where we are today, I can tell you it's completely different. There are, I would say, these are the challenges, that basically as finance also organization we used to have. And while they may look old, the reality is that I know a lot of companies are still struggling with them. First of all, multiple sources of truth. We all have seen the explosion of data. With that, several of companies and even ourselves at that time are still living with the legacy systems, created 20 years ago and are using static reports. They are not able to drill down to find the business insights. Data is the new strategic asset, in fact, for CFOs. And the amount of data is doubling every year in the world. And several of even our customers have not yet created their single source of the truth, which is critical for us as finance professionals. Moreover, inefficient decision-making process. Business is becoming more complex every day. Having all tools that were built for all business models is not helpful. This is especially challenging in times of uncertainty when we need to make rapid decisions and adjustments. And even ourselves, as Microsoft, we went through a major business transformation, moving, from one software in each PC, or software in each PC to the cloud computing world where we are now operating. The third point is several finance processes that our customers do are still manual, that leads to a lot of potential errors. Sometimes the people managing these processes are great on what they do, but subject to human error, closing, reconciliations, invoice processing, etc. At last, ineffective forward-looking analysis due to lack in data quality and advanced analytics models. So really around what is going to happen in the future was and is still in some situations a significant challenge for the CFOs.
Right. Now that's probably the sort of typical list of things you expect in every finance function. But what I think would be interesting to know, how did this change the shape and size of your function? I mean, as you went through these challenges, what did that mean for your function?
Definitely. So look, I mean, first of all, I don't know if the slides are moving here. Look, first of all, let me share the fact that our mission at Microsoft is to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. In some ways, this slide shows best what that means for the finance organization at Microsoft. Historically, our finance headcount grew in lockstep with our business growth. And throughout our history, from 70s, 80s, as we added additional revenue, we added more people. However, post-financial crisis, we have been able to keep OPEX headcount relatively flat while our business continued to accelerate growth. In the past years, since 2009, headcount has grown only 15%, while revenue is up 145%. So the increased usage of standard tools and technology helps to drive productivity gain, more efficient in all our processes, but most importantly, more effective. But also, obviously, one important thing to consider here is that the headcount didn't go down, and we will look at it a little bit later. Our headcount stayed flat and even increased a little bit, as you could see. The thing is that the way we work has completely changed, and the way we do what we do also today as finance professionals at Microsoft is quite different, or significantly different, than what we used to do in the past.
Okay. And what does it mean for your KPIs, your productivity and efficiency as a function?
Yeah, so maybe look, this is kind of, this is a slide that I like a lot, because this is really all about our journey, and how we have been able to evolve. I heard a lot earlier about, Excel and so on. And look, our journey in simple terms started with the goal to turn data into action, by adding value to the business in the fastest and most relevant way. We want to speed up the time between data and action, basically. But before we could do that, I mean, it's important, because it's not like something that you can do just in one click. We had to work on preparing the data, cleaning up data, creating consistent taxonomies, moving it to the cloud, and creating the single source of truth, that I spoke about earlier. This was, in fact, the key foundation and the most critical step. So once data is clean and available, then we can start producing business intelligence. So in the beginning, we started with static reports in Excel that we all love. By the way, we still use Excel, so don't think that we are not using Excel. That could only tell what happened, okay? These reports did not allow the drill down capability and didn't produce insights for our business. Furthermore, the number of manual processes and work that we had to put together to build these reports and then produce actionable insights was huge. So Power BI came a few years later with data analytics and visualization, allowing interactive reporting, real-time financial information, combined information from multiple data sources, making meetings much more dynamic, helping us understand why it happened, basically, and reducing, of course, the number of manual processes. But still, we could only look at the past and did not have the tools to help predict the future. The CFO needs to be able to walk people through the meaning behind data, storytelling, so that they understand the implications and next steps on the journey. So this is, as a next step, then we crossed the line, and started looking at the future with advanced analytics and artificial intelligence. Today, with machine learning, we can now learn from the past to predict the future. We can know what will happen. That's really a critical change that happened to us. Just as an example, we used to do our forecast. We used to be kind of an army of people doing forecast in the past. Today, we leverage this technology and we do it in a much more efficient and effective way. And finally, with the combination of machine learning, bots, and the Power Platform, we get to the position where we can say what to do, automating the decision-making process and moving fast from data to decision. So basically, we moved from a situation where standard, traditional finance is presenting the facts, the history. Today, at Microsoft, sometimes our business partners, they know about the history even before ourselves, because the data is live, available 24/7. So now we are moving to more towards driving the business and being part of the decision process with our business partners. Maybe the next slide. Yes, sorry, Shopnes, go ahead.
No, I'll bring up the next slide, but at the same time, it would be great to sort of learn what did it mean for the skill sets within the team. Are they mostly now finance people, or you've switched to other competencies to drive this change?
Yeah. So look, we still have our finance people are still finance professionals. Okay. The thing is that many of them today have developed, and it's very interesting because I was listening in the previous panel, the fact that we need to keep learning, and definitely, many of our finance professionals have become data scientists. We have even at Microsoft put in place a program internally for our own finance to go through a learning path, and get to know and get to understand, first of all, the basics of cloud computing, and then the possibility even to go up to develop certifications, And this is a very interesting one, because at the end of the day, it's about empowering our people, It's about, if you look at this slide, and this is kind of our transformation from before to now, it's about spending less time in transactional activities and more time delivering insight and leading our organization, to make better decisions based on data and analytics. We want finance employees focusing on areas that technology still can't help us solve very well, like negotiating with business partners or looking for greenfield opportunities or managing complex projects. So we basically move them today. Even when I look at my team members, they are not at all into transactional finance. They are more around spending time, having the conversation with the business, thinking about what are the challenges, how can we fix them, what are the next opportunities for growth, what are the investments that we want to do, what are the strategic projects that we want to address. This is where our finance is today involved, Shafez.
Great. And what would you say is the most important ingredient for a successful transformation?
Yeah, so maybe look, that's and earlier I heard, and it resonated a lot to me, the mindset, and basically it's the growth mindset. To, look, to enable the journey to the digital transformation, we realize that culture change is needed across the entire, not only finance organization, the entire company. Without the right culture change, there will be no digital transformation. That's for sure. It will be a failure. And the reality is that, as I said earlier, our people, look, our population, our headcount has still been growing. But some people who didn't want to embrace the change, they couldn't stay, but the others, me, I'm part of them who decided to embrace it, are still around, So the key driver of our success is culture, and we fundamentally believe that we need a culture founded in a growth mindset. It starts with the belief that everyone can grow and develop, and we need to take risks. It's also, I heard earlier, the challenge for us as finance people that we are more conservative. No, we have to learn that it's critical, it's important to take risks. And in a growth mindset culture, failure is accepted. We celebrate failure, to some extent, because failure, when we take risk, we fail and we learn. And that's the mindset that we have established now for almost 10 years in our company. And look, we can exercise our growth mindset every day in three areas: diversity and inclusion. Look, the world is diverse. We don't just value differences, we seek them out and we invite them in. Myself, even, I had in the past my own biases and I went beyond them, And today I'm very happy to have a super diverse team representing the whole, Middle East and Africa region, And obviously, as a result, our ideas are better, our products are better, and our customers definitely are better served. The other piece is customer obsession. We will learn about our customers and their businesses, and then bring solutions that meet their needs. And last but not least, the One Microsoft spirit. We are a family of individuals united by a single shared mission: empower every person and organization on the planet to achieve more through our technology and innovation. So this is a kind of a summary that, look, the culture piece was critical, and this is where all started, with our current CEO, Satya Nadella. It all started about the culture that I have to say was equally important to the quality of our technology.
Great. Now, Tariq, I know that maybe this requires a whole dedicated session, and hopefully we will get, with support from ICAP, maybe we can organize one such session for all those interested to learn more about all of the levers that you have pulled to make this transformation happen for yourselves, as well as enabling it for the wider business world, right? So maybe we will have a more detailed session in the future, which covers all these, aspects. So is there any concluding note you would like to share? Because I'm conscious we are maybe running out of time now.
No, definitely no. Yes, that's what I noticed as well. I know I speak too much sometimes. It's the excitement, about sharing our experience. But look, very happy again. Those are the 4 pillars of our modern finance digital transformation. So PPA, we spoke about it also earlier. strategy and forecasting, financial analysis and reporting, and risk management as well. Today, we leverage also machine learning to manage risk and mitigate risk in our company. So very happy in the future for if there some of the people here, companies are interested, very happy to engage, into a more detailed workshop, with my team, with some of my team members, and yeah, looking forward to it. And once again, thank you very much, Shapkaz and the whole team for this opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Tariq. Zaid, I'll hand over back to you now. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tariq and Shapkaz. It was really a wonderful, insightful session, and we look forward to have more detailed session with you guys in future. Our next, now it's a time for real-time demonstration on RPA and AI tools. And for that, we have two people. Both of them are highly qualified and subject matter expert. First one is Oscar Marin. He is a leader for EY process, artificial intelligence and automation with years of experience in AI, software development, advanced analytics, automation, and IT infrastructure projects. He leads multidisciplinary team across diverse industries and has extensive experience dealing with various data sources, including relational, columnar, and memory databases. Oscar is a knowledgeable in web technologies using many tools, and he is an accomplished speaker as well. We welcome Oscar on stage. Second speaker is Ali Qamar. Ali Qamar is a partner in consulting at EY Fort Roads with over 20 years of experience as a chartered accountant and Six Sigma Black Belt. He was instrumental in establishing the consulting practice at EY Fort Roads and has since been involved in developing innovative solutions for organizations using cutting-edge technology. In addition to his consulting work, Ali is an executive in residence in LUMS, contributing to the design of their MS Accounting and Analytics program, creating industry linkages and supervising project thesis for MS students. Please welcome both of them on stage for real-time demonstration. Stage is yours.
Well, thank you very much and good evening, everybody. Very excited to be here with all of you. I've been listening to some of the sessions, and I have to say it's been inspiring, right? And one of the things that I believe that you're going to get from this next part of the presentation is that hopefully there is going to realize that there is a full alignment between what me and my colleague are going to present, Ali. And hopefully what we're going to discuss today is going to be of use for all of you. Like I was saying, like they were saying in my introduction, I've been working on this space probably since started my career in the early 2000s, and then I started to focus in the space of automation, perhaps beginning of 2015. And we've seen an evolution on how the automation technologies are progressing, right? On our company, we provide services all over the world to our clients in different sizes. And what we're noticing is that there is an evolution of what we're calling Generation 1, which is all of these technologies that can be applied that are not cognitive in nature, but they are purpose in a way where you can automate tasks that are focused on structured data, right? And a good example of that is robotics process automation, right? And there is a lot of very good things that you can do with that technology, but at some point you start reaching a ceiling in terms of the capabilities and what you can do with those technologies. Then there is the introduction of a second generation of technologies that we call Generation 2. in the market sometimes that is also explained as something called hyperautomation, which is a collection of different technologies that have the ability to deal more with unstructured and semi-structured data, right? And we have a few examples of demos later today to talk about these generation 2 technologies and provide a view of what can you can do with that. And then what we're seeing today is what we call also generation 3, which is like AI powered decision-making type of capabilities. In the previous presentation, you were hearing about what Microsoft is doing with finance. We're seeing that with our clients as well. And we see a lot more interest today in dealing with generation 3 type of technologies. And we have a very short demo of, how does that actually looks like. And I know probably a lot of you are wondering, right? Like, how do you progress through what we call intelligence at scale? Having the ability in an organization to actually leverage all of these capabilities and the difference between them, right? Like, and the one thing that is important for me to highlight is when you're going from generation 1, generation 2, all the way up to generation 3, is that generation 3 is more of an aspirational goal, right? It's making sure that as you're designing your strategies on how you're going to run your business, you always have the concept of AI as one of the value levers that you can pull, right? And make sure that you're always thinking about how to leverage in your data, how to create AI models that are going to drive how your business process run, right? And ideally, we're going to get into a stage where a high percentage of the business processes that are part of the finance function of our organizations are led through artificial intelligence. And I know that the session, the webinar has been running for quite a while now. So I'm going to be doing a very quick demo on where are we seeing, for example, the concept of generation 3 artificial intelligence being used. I'm pretty confident that everybody has heard about ChatGPT or generative AI for a while. We're using these capabilities with our clients to help them very quickly deploy highly intelligent models that can be used in all kinds of different areas of the business. And although I don't have a very specific finance use case at this point, I'm going to do something that is general purpose, so you actually get a feel on how the technology can work and how easily you can deploy that. And then how can you apply these capabilities in your different business processes. In this example, what we're doing is we have a highly unstructured data set. And this data set is not from our clients. It's something that we can grab from a public data science data set. But basically, we are processing, in this case, complaints from travel websites, right? So everybody knows that there is always a lot of information and data generated. In this case, what the AI is going to be doing is going to be reading information from complaints, right? In every organization, there is always issues to be handled and a lot of information that you can extract from them. So we're going to train in a matter of few seconds the artificial intelligence to actually extract data from a highly unstructured complaint about a website. And I'm going to tell the AI, hey, I need you to please give me the topic of this complaint, right? I need you to get me the names of the companies. I want to know the locations. I want to know what the sentiment is, right? And in addition to that, rather than getting all of the data, I just need a short summary. And to make matters even more interesting, I'm going to be asking the artificial intelligence to not just give me the information in natural language, but transform that output into something called a JSON, right? JSON is a format used to transfer data across the internet. It's very famous for developers and the APIs. And as you can see, in a matter of seconds, I have the ability to transform something that is highly unstructured into something that is structured. I can very easily plugged in a Power BI dashboard, a Tableau dashboard into a data set like this and start gathering insights, right? So this is an example in how in a matter of seconds, you can process data with the use of artificial intelligence. And intelligence doesn't just stop there, right? It has the ability to very interestingly understand the data being processed. So just to demonstrate how smart these technologies are, I'm going to be asking like an extra question. Besides all of the stuff that I'm asking, I'm saying like, can you please provide what the monetary impact is going to be for that complaint that we have? And I just do that and I say, give me the information again in this JSON machine readable format. We're going to run the AI. I'm going to put a different text, and then the tool is going to have the ability to actually understand what the impact actually is. And hopefully, I know it's a small, you can read the text, but there is multiple references in the text to currency and money, right? But there is one in particular that says like, I pay $5,000 and by the delay, now I have to pay an extra 200 euros, I'm sorry, right? And the technology is very smart to tell me, hey, the amount on dispute here is 200 and this is the currency, right? This is just an example to show how these generative AI or AI capabilities are evolving. Now imagine deploying this in multiple areas of your business, right? But this is one example that I have for you today that is very specific around the concept of language models, right? Being able to communicate with an AI and start asking questions. And as you notice, it's not just a matter of asking any other questions. You get the ability to actually very quickly train these models to get the information in a way that is useful for you. So the next demo that we have here is around a different topic. So that one was more around language models. The following demo is from a company that specializes in RPA, but they're starting to work on areas of generation 2 type of technology. So this is the ability of actually understanding documents. And when you're understanding documents that are going to be documents in which the actual content of the text is very important, right? But in this case, this technology has also the ability to apply computer vision type of capabilities and understand the layout of the content of the document, being able to extract data from tables and other sources that are, very important and kind of hard to understand. For us humans, it's very easy to look at it, right? For computers, is rather difficult, but this is another area where we're seeing a lot of traction and a lot of clients investing resources in exploring these technologies because there is a lot of benefits and it's getting better, smarter. So let me run this demo.
Have you ever thought how much time employees spend on document processing? And it gets even more challenging as the documents vary in their structure. Some of them have a fixed format and are easy to process, like forms, passports, and licenses. Some of the documents have no fixed structure at all, like contracts, emails, and health records. Others may contain both fixed and variable parts, like invoices, purchase orders, and utility bills. That's why there is no easy way to automate document processing, even with traditional automation software. All this becomes possible with UiPath Document Understanding, the way to process documents intelligently. To handle all the different document types coming their way, the robots learn how to read and interpret documents. They review rules, expressions, and memorize the names of the fields. They study really hard to make sure they know how to approach a specific document, be it a passport, invoice, receipt, or a utility bill. Machine learning develops our robots' artificial intelligence, making them brilliant at taking on the tricky bits like varying templates, handwriting, signatures, checkboxes, skewed or rotated documents, various file formats, and low-quality scanned documents. All these challenges and more, UiPath robots using document understanding can happily overcome. From time to time, a human will just check in to validate their performance or handle exceptions. This way, robots become little helpers who can read and act upon documents for you to ensure the most rapid and accurate results and save costs. Mitigate the risk of human error to avoid related losses and improve customer experience. Save your employees from the mundane to make them happier and help them focus on higher value tasks. Put your robots to work on your documents intelligently with UiPath Document Understanding.
So, and I hope that the latency in the video was okay, and you were able to hear what the sound was, right, and render well. But this is one area where we're seeing a lot of growth. Clients in different companies, they have a lot of semi-structured documents like invoices, bill of lading, and all kinds of different forms. And these technologies are really helping them, right? And this is what we call a generation 2 type of technology, because it requires what we call supervised learning, as you were seeing in the video, right? Like, it's one where the AI can do a lot of work, but there is always going to need a level of supervision to actually check the output of the technology. In addition to that, there is always the need to constantly keep training the technology. Again, we're seeing a lot of benefits from the technology. The level of accuracy is keep getting better, but a very interesting thing on the generation 2 technology to keep in mind. And the other thing that I want to share with all of you today is, why are we seeing companies making intelligent automation a priority on their strategy, right? And there is multiple factors. One that is very easy to actually outline and understand is cost, right? Being able to actually improve the efficiency of the operations, you can certainly achieve that with the use of the technologies that we have highlighted, right? But interestingly enough, one thing that I learned over the years is that cost is something that, of course, is very attractive, but hardly is ever the main driver around deploying this type of technologies. In the previous session, they were providing the story about Microsoft and how they managed to actually only grow 50% of their workforce, but the revenues grow significantly. And that has been what I've seen happening over and over again, right? Like, most of our clients are thinking about how can they keep the base of the FTEs that they have in the organization and actually drive more growth with the use of these type of technologies. And that's the main theme that I've seen over the years, right? Like, having technology support my growth. And it's not just a matter of keeping the same workforce, but actually improve their day-to-day and their work-life balance, right? For example, cost, growth, and then the other one that we hear a lot is the concept of talent, right? In certain geographies, part of the challenge with talent is that it is hard to retain, right? So today, I'm living in the US, but I started my career originally from a country in Latin America. And this situation of retaining talent is not like a problem there, right? But here in other geographies, like the US, if the work is repetitive, then there is a problem of actually keeping staff on a particular role, because they will like to be more challenged and they will like to use more of their cognitive abilities in the job. So the use of deploying these technologies to avoid rotation and make sure that the work is more fulfilling is something that we do a lot for our clients. And then the other piece that happens is, when you deploy technology, you're going to have consistency on how the process is going to be executed. You're also going to have full visibility on how the processes are being executed, and then you get the ability to audit how all of the information is being processed. Therefore, you get to reduce the risk, the inherent risk that goes into executing a process. So these are like the 4 major drivers that we're seeing our clients using in order to go ahead with the implementation of intelligent automation technologies. The other thing that I want to highlight as well for all of you is when there is discussions around automation, the concept of, robotics process automation is automation. And that's not truly the case. And I know throughout the course of this webinar, there has been a really good discussion around other technologies, right? And what we call like the best fit, which is for every particular problem, there is going to be probably a technology that is better suited for a particular problem domain, right? So some of the mistakes that we have seen some of our clients made is like, oh, great, I have an RPA technology. So every problem that I have is going to be solved with RPA. That is not the right option, right? Or if you have a client that has Alteryx, or they have NIME or other data management technologies, they feel that every single problem that they have in the organization can be solved with that particular technology. And the reality is that's not always the case, right? You need to have an open mindset and make sure that you look at the problem, you look at my strategy, right? And then you get the ability to solution architect what the right implementation is going to be of a collection of technologies, right? And that's what we're calling hyperautomation. For every given business problem, you need to think about what is the best fit technology for that, and also make sure that whatever initiative that you have is responding to a corporate strategy. The other thing that you can see in this chart is at the bottom, we have different technologies that we see are relevant in the concept of automation. And at the top, we have different domains that are also very important, right? Making sure that there is a strategy behind how you're doing the automation is very important, right? And we're going to double down in pipeline management, making sure that we have the ability to accurately identify the use cases, make sure that there is a business case behind it. Then we have the ability, what my operations model is going to be. It's not just a matter of building automations for the sake of building automations, but at some point, these automations are going to require maintenance. How we're going to do about maintenance, how we're going to do with change management, how we're going to deal with licenses, how we're going to deal with infrastructure, right? So it's important to have an operations model, because if you do not, the first few months that you're building automations is going to feel great, right? Because you're seeing a lot of work being done through automations. But I promise you, at some point, you're going to start needing to do changes, maintenance, or the individuals that build the automations, they're moving on in the company, they're doing something else, they leave the organization, right? So you need to have a plan on how to deal with that. And finally, everything related to risk and controls. Make sure that if your company have the tools, that they're using the tools in the right way, right? That they're not, for example, creating automations that will create a lot of stress on the underlying systems, or they're accessing data that shouldn't be accessible, right? So it's important to consider all of that. So what I'm trying to say is technology is great, right? You need to make sure that you have a plan on how to deal with that technology. And then finally, the other thing that is very important is, great, I have the technology and I have a governance model behind it. How do I come across actually finding the right opportunities for my program to automate? And there is multiple different ways in which you can do that, right? Like one way is what we call the bottoms up, right? You can start asking different team members, right? Like what we call like the functional stakeholders. Hey, what are some good areas for me to automate, right? Like this is what I have highlighted here in form-based intake tool, which is basically a bottoms-up approach, right? Like you can have like a top-down approach where leadership is saying, hey, we really need to improve our treasury. We really need to improve how long it takes to do the close. We really need to improve our cash collection, accounts payable, right? And then leadership is actually taking a proactive approach on how to deal with the transformation. Or you can use other technologies like process or task mining. These are technologies that you can deploy in the organization. They're going to gather different data sets. They're going to build a process model, and they're going to help you identify deviations on how the process is being executed. Different, for example, bottlenecks. And one of the output of those technologies is you can get a portfolio of automation ideas that you can pursue, right? So regardless of what approach you take, you always need to take a data-driven approach on how you're going to be dealing with this, right? Like, so whether it's through a form, whether it's leadership, you always need to make sure to look at the data, right? Once you have the data, then you need to have deep dive sessions to actually understand the implications of building the automation. And then the other thing is, just because I have a really good approach, I have the data to back it up, I have talked to the stakeholders, you always need to look in the business feasibility of actually doing this, right? And then also the technology feasibility, right? Sometimes the two don't marry up. So it's important to always keep that in consideration. Once you have all of these different steps, with a lot of confidence, you can start building a roadmap for your automations. And this is something that I'm telling you from experience that requires a lot of attention, right? Making sure that you get to the place where the business stakeholders are aligned, and then from a technology perspective, you have everything that you need to actually move forward, right? Because I've seen multiple times where the idea is great, the technology is not the appropriate technology to actually implement this, and then you run into all kinds of different challenges, right? As you're thinking about building the business case, right, there is like 3 different areas where you can focus. First of all is start to prepare to understand how big the opportunity is going to be, right? Make sure that you have executive alignment, right? Like the other one is how feasible is this for me to actually pursue? Making sure that you understand the different technologies that you have available, that not only is that technology, but also is the business going to be ready for the implementation. Something that is critical to understand is, as you're building these automations, right? Like you may have a team of dedicated developer specialists at building the automation. Sometimes the business counterparts, they're very critical, right? Like what we call like the subject matter experts that actually know how the process works, how everything needs to be put together. They may not have the availability to actually support the development team, the COE team. So if that is not there, then, you know, it's something to consider and maybe postpone the development of the automation. And then the other thing is how quickly you can do it, right? Make sure that you have a business case, make sure that you understand what the roadmap is of other initiatives in the organization, and that you're not working on something on the business side. Let's say that we're working in finance and we have autonomy, we have the licenses, we want to do the work. All of a sudden, you are ready to start. And then there is another initiative led by IT, for example, that is going to sunset some of the systems that you're trying to automate, right? So it's important to have that alignment. The other area that is very important is once you have your governance model, you have the technology selection, you've been able to identify the use cases, is think about how am I going to be measuring the benefits, right? And that one is, again, I've been using the word important a lot, right? But that one is paramount as you are going through your program. Because it's like I was saying at the beginning, it's not all about how many hours am I saving, right? And what we've seen is building these or thinking about these key performance indicators very early on is going to allow you to shape how you're going to design your solution, right? And the best way that we have found to do this is focusing these 3 different areas, right? Like what are going to be like my key operational metrics? How am I also going to measure the adoption, right? Because keep this in mind, this is a paradigm shift. If you're deploying technologies, it's going to be digital workers working with humans, right? So it's important to always keep track of metrics around adoption. And then finally, right, what are my impact KPIs and what benefits? Basically is the things that we can control, what we can influence, and then things that we can expect, right? Like, so always keep in mind how you're going to be measuring those benefits. And we're getting to the end of the presentation that I have today, but this is something that we've been working on for quite a while, right? And there is different areas where you can think about automations, right? And like I was saying at the beginning, there is going to be a few where rule-based automations and technologies like robotics process automation or tools like Alteryx are going to be a great fit. There are others where you're going to need more cognitive type of capabilities, like the few that I was demoing. And typically what is going to drive the use of cognitive technologies is going to be my data inputs, right? If my data inputs are highly structured, chances are they'll have the ability to do that with rule-based automation. If my data inputs are unstructured, like pictures or documents, emails, right? Like I'm going to need a different type of technologies, right? And for that is, we're highlighting those in yellow. The other thing that is important, as we were talking about governance, is that there is going to be an organization, all kinds of different roles supporting an automation program or a COE. And what we notice is the most successful is when you have the business engaged, when you have like the functional users that know how to execute the process. The higher the level of engagement that you get on any automation program from these stakeholders, the higher chance of success you're going to see. And that's something that I've seen over and over again. The moment that you get a leader in an organization saying, let's go with the automation, a top-down approach, but there isn't great engagement from the stakeholders that are day-to-day executing the manual process, that's where you start seeing some gaps in the level of success, right? When you have the business stakeholders understanding what the goals are, when you have the business stakeholders truly committed to the success of the program, everything works really great, right? So keep that in mind, right? Like there is always important to have the concept of a business engagement lead, somebody that works closely with the COE, really understand the technology, that is excited about doing this, right? Having that role is very important, and that needs to be a business-led type of role, right? You can even have developers. These technologies are low code, most of them. So if you have somebody that is keen in learning technologies and they really understand it, we've seen clients where they are deploying their own automations, right? But there is always going to need to be a lot of support from a COE and also from the IT department. But this is what I have for all of you today. Hopefully this was useful. And Ali, I don't know if we want to go into questions or comments.
Yeah, so thank you, Oscar. Quite an exhilarating discussion all throughout the webinar. And a lot of questions have been raised, which is very good, very encouraging. What I see here is that there is an abundant realization that we can't miss the automation bandwagon, and surely we cannot. I'll just like try to zoom in the discussion to our like landscape and what we generally see in organizations. And I'll try to zoom into the discussion towards that. So what we generally see in organizations is that there is a perception that, for example, if we are operating in an economy with a low HR cost, so these advanced automations do not really make feasible are not feasible for us. What you have mentioned is that there are like other benefits besides the cost as well. So can you like just like focus a bit on that side? What can we achieve besides the cost efficiencies?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. And we've seen that a lot. Sometimes the licensing costs and the cost of build can be onerous, right? And if you are trying to work in areas where the hourly rates are rather low, then it's probably not going to make a lot of sense. But, I'm going to just to reinforce the point that I was making earlier. there are all kinds of different benefits that you can see from the use of the technology. And one that we see happening a lot is not just the hours, but also, like I was saying, the consistency in how the process is being executed. We see clients double down on that area, because when we have humans, right, like we tend to not execute the process the same way every single time, and that is going to cause issues with the output. That is one area, right? So yeah, that's and then the other one is the growth, right? Like being able to keep your base, and the moment that you have these automations deployed, you get the ability to actually execute way more transactions, which is going to be beneficial.
Right. So I just discuss a use case. So I was working with a utility company which has like hundreds and thousands of consumers, and they collect the bills, and they raise invoices every month. So they were getting the pictures of the meters, and then they were manually putting it into the invoices to be raised, which is an ideal use case for something like an RPA or an intelligent automation to actually read through those pictures and then translate them into the invoices. So a lot of opportunities that I see in the local in the context where even the HR cost is low, but there's a lot of need for accuracy, speed, agility, and scale. But coming back to the first demo that you have demonstrated on the Chat GPT, and it's top of the tongue for sure. I mean, it has really changed the way search engines and these things are looked at. But there is another consideration to it. So for example, when we feed in the data to an AI, so it will only be as good as the data is fed. What if the data is skewed and it is resulting in a biased actions being recommended by the tool? So how to actually govern that part of it?
Yeah, that's a really good question, right? And it's a very common concern whenever we talk to different stakeholders about it. And if you go back to that circle slide that I was having, where at the bottom you get the technology, at the top you have a governance model, right? This technology is not something where you have the data, you create the model, and then you click a button, and then it goes into production, right? You need to have a governance model around it. And that is a very good point, right? Making sure that there is no bias, making sure that there is no false positives, which is something that I've seen happening a lot, right? Every time that an AI makes a recommendation, it comes with a confidence score between 0 and 1. And sometimes you see the AI saying hey, I'm 97% sure this is the correct answer, and it's not, right? So you need to have a governance model to look into that, right? And it's important to, pay extra attention to all of that. When you're talking about AI and machine learning, there is a couple of ways in which you can do that, right? One is what we call supervised learning, which is you start teaching the AI and you have a list of a data set and telling, hey, these are the answers. And then you're supervising how the algorithm learns, or there is unsupervised, saying hey, there is all of large data set. Here's what you can learn about it. And you start, in groups analyzing their results. It's important as we're dealing with these technologies, they're not unsupervised, right? Make sure that as you are deploying these technologies, there is always a human filter that is going to make sure how the technologies are working. And listen, right? I don't think that we're close to the place where these technologies are going to replace human beings, but it's certainly going to accelerate how quickly we can get to value, right? And that's why it's important for every organization, right? The way we're using that internally in the company that we're working is to accelerate how fast we can do the work, right? And make sure that, like I was saying at the beginning, we get to focus more in the tasks that we're good at, right? And the stuff that, we can get our own personal assistant driven by artificial intelligence, we do that.
Right. And what is the required majority or the ideal majority level in terms of automation of an organization to embark on these advanced automation tools like RPA, IPA, these things? Because generally organizations have bits and pieces of tech, and there are still other processes which are manually driven or manually performed. So what is the ideal automation level of an organization to go into this?
Yeah, that's a really good question, right? Like, I think the first thing that they need to acknowledge is that these technologies, they need to be accompanied by a team that is going to support it, right? Because what happens sometimes is there is a mistake around thinking that this is something that anybody can do, which is partially true, right? But like I was saying in my call, at the beginning, it is important to actually have a governance model around it. And the best thing to do this is to have a progressive approach, right? It's not like, oh, I need to start with a massive team of individuals that are going to support the automation program. But you can start small and then keep growing. As you're growing, always keep in mind that you're going to need an extra layer of support and guidance on how to deal with that. Don't ever think that, oh, I don't have this governance model, so I don't get to actually do it. Yes, start building, start learning, right? But always keep in the back of your head that keep like a growth mindset. You're going to be doing more. Make sure that you're ready for expansion, for growth, and make sure that you're communicating with the different stakeholders to make sure that there is always a plan around how you're going to support the automations. Because I promise you this, regardless how talented you are with the automation, I've seen this happening multiple times, they are going to fail. And when they do fail, you better have a plan to fix the problem in 5 minutes rather than 5 hours, 5 days, 5 weeks, 5 months. So thinking ahead is going to be beneficial.
So effectively, I mean, it's like if they're not like leapfrogs that one can take in the organization, there have to be like small steps which are to be taken to actually create the space for larger leaps to be taken. And what are the biggest challenges or like pitfalls that you have like seen organizations getting into while they're embarking on this like transformation journey on automation or like these advanced tools?
Yeah, number one is sometimes lack of alignment, right? It might be like I was saying at the beginning. Sometimes it happens when the middle management is excited and they want to go ahead with the program. Upper management not might be fully aligned, and then that causes a problem. And sometimes it's the inverse, right? Like it happens where the top leadership is fully aligned, but then the experts, which are the ones that actually execute the manual processes, they're not on board not because they fear the technology. That has not been my experience. It's just because they don't understand that they don't see the vision, right? So being able to clearly communicate what the goals are going to be, what the expectations, it's number one, right? Like then the other one is making sure that there is going to be a system of support, right? Making sure that there might be full alignment between leadership and middle management. But if you don't have a governance model, once you start moving the automations into a production environment and they start running into different issues, very quickly the level of excitement goes into frustration, right? And then before you know it, everybody is like, and I heard this a few times, oh, I have an automation that should make my life easier, is making my life harder, right? And it's because you did not plan for the automations to fail, right? And then the third, I believe, is probably making sure that you're selecting the correct use case, right? Like that framework that I was showing around the different steps that you need to take, that's also very important. Sometimes we see, oh, there is alignment with the vision of the program. Oh, I have everything that I need from a support perspective to be successful. Let's go ahead with the automation. You're automating a process that shouldn't be automated, right? And that creates, again, excitement translating into frustration. So making sure that you're selecting the right use case is critical. And then the fourth is going to be, just because you have RPA doesn't mean that you can do everything with RPA. Just because you have Alteryx doesn't mean that you can do everything with Alteryx. And I can say the same about Python, right? Like you can pretty much automate whatever you like with Python. Let's make sure that you have the right technology or the collections of technologies, right? And I think that is also a sub part of picking the use case. But if as you're doing the selection of the use case, you need to be thinking about the architecture, the solution architecture, not just technical architecture, but also business architecture, right? Like, so think about the overall solution, and that is an important part of selecting the use case.
Yeah, I see your point. I agree with you. I mean, what we have seen is a lot of organizations who have put tools and technology above and or before the people, talent, governance, and program management, and have really like paid more than the cost of technology. So effectively, these things are like absolutely critical. I'll hand over it back to Zed because I feel we are already a bit above time. And thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Oscar and Eddie, for insightful demonstration and explanation. And now we are moving towards the end. And for that purpose, I would like to invite on a virtual stage Mr. Asad Firoz, Vice President, ICAP, for vote of thanks in a form of video. Mr. Asad Firoz is a fellow member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Pakistan and ACCA, and a founding partner of Junaidi Shoaib Asad Chartered Accountants. He is an elected member of ICAP Council as SCCP Certified Director and IFC Approved Trainer on Governance. Having trained over 400 SCCP Certified Directors with 20 years of experience working with various organizations, Mr. Firoz has also chaired committees of the ICAP and served as the past chairman of NRC. Please run his video vote of thanks.
Respected council members, esteemed speakers, panelists, and all participants, Assalamu alaikum. A very good evening to all of you. Today's webinar on the topic of finance and audit automation with data analytics and artificial intelligence was organized by the Digital Assurance and Accounting Board of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Pakistan. It is a wonderful initiative of DAB for creating awareness among finance professionals on most pivotal topics of the digital transformation. In the fast-paced and dynamic landscape of today's world, digital transformation has ushered in an era of unparalleled change, disrupting traditional modes of business operations while simultaneously opening a world of possibilities for audit and finance professionals alike. In order to remain relevant and competitive in this evolving landscape, it is crucial for finance and audit professionals to stay attuned to digital advancements and proactively embrace in their work. I feel these aspects are a game changer as far as the finance and audit professionals are concerned. The sooner the skill set is developed in these aspects, the better it would be for their sustainability and growth. The keynote presentation by Mr. Al-Noor from the London School of Economics and Honorary Dean Lums on the impact of digitalization and automation on the finance function was very insightful. The session by Mr. Nadeem Hussain from Planet M on repetitive performance automation, artificial intelligence and blockchain technologies developments, and the role of finance professionals can play was also very highly valuable. I would like to express my appreciation to Mr. Farooq Najm from Meta, Mr. Zubair Ahmed Subani from Think Ventures, Mr. Farooq Muhammad from Embark USA, and Mr. Syed Asif Zaman from UAE for the in-depth panel discussion on the importance and need for digital and intelligent automation. We are grateful to Mr. Tariq from Microsoft Corporation and Mr. Shabkais Mahmood from Ion Digital and Meena partner Outwise for their enlightening talk on the role of CFO on digital organization and successful practices to cultivate and sustain the right culture, organization, infrastructure, and processes. We would also like to pay our gratitude to Mr. Oscar Marine, AI and Automation Leader EY, and Mr. Ali Kamar, Partner Consulting EY, for their enlightening talk on real demonstration of RPA, AI tools, and how companies have benefited and approached it. I believe that the wealth of knowledge and practical examples shared by our distinguished experts during this webinar have equipped attendees with relevant knowledge, and they can build strategies to stay ahead of the curve in the ever-evolving digital world. Last but not the least, I would like to thank Ms. Khurshid Kostwal, our fellow council member and chairperson DAB, and all our team members. Also, the executive team members from DAB, IT and Marcom team who have contributed a lot in successful holding of this webinar today. DAB team is surely helping us meeting objectives set in the strategy of ICAP that was initiated by your council almost a year ago in reference to the development of the skill set of members and students in most important areas of digital disruption. Webinars like these and data analytics programs, SAP trainings are all very wonderful initiatives of TAB, and we are hopeful that these initiatives will continue in the future. I hope that the participants of this webinar had a good session of learning, and we appreciate the participation and contribution to its success by involvement of all these participants and esteemed guests. On behalf of Institute of Chartered Accountants of Pakistan, I would like to thank everyone again for coming and attending this webinar online, and look forward to see you at the future ICAP events. Thank you very much.
With this, we are reaching to the end of this webinar. I thank everyone for joining us, and all the participants who have joined us from beginning till the end will get the certificate of participation, and also we will be sharing video recording of this webinar. Mark Cuban, a billionaire entrepreneur and an investor, once said, "Artificial intelligence, deep learning, machine learning, whatever you are doing, if you don't understand it, learn it, because otherwise you are going to be a dinosaur within 3 years." With this, Zaid Kalia, MOC of today's webinar, signing off. Stay blessed. Allah Hafiz.